I will call the Irmo Town Council meeting to order and recognize Councilman Walker and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Lord, bless this council and all decisions we make tonight, that we may help and grow our town in a way that you see fit in your eyes. Amen.
Next item on the agenda is the reading of the minutes from August the 4th. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes as written?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor then of the minutes being approved as written, do so with show of hands. Next item is the administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, anything you'd like to add?
We still have an opening on the planning commission, so if you all know of anyone who may want to serve, just let me know. We've advertised for it, that was about 6 weeks ago, no response.
Can I say anybody who lives in the town limits or anybody in?
You can have one
We can have one
member,
business.
one member, if there's not one on there now that's currently a business owner, they're all
And all
town
residents
residents,
right now, yes.
they're allowed one business owner.
Doesn't have to live in town, but business.
Yeah, the business needs to be in town.
Sure. That's all.
Any questions, Mr. Brown? Number 3. The next item is receipt of communications, and I did not see that lady, so I'm guessing she's not here. This Rackett and Waste Industries, I haven't heard from her since the last thing, so I'm not sure if she
Was there another conversation?
It's the same one, same lady, because she didn't make it the meeting before, so she would make it this one.
No, I'm saying waste industry.
Oh, yeah.
Another company?
Yeah.
As opposed to one guy now?
Yeah. She was going to come introduce herself, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, next item is Chairman Kirk Luther, an update on the orchestra. And I'll recognize you.
We got, Mr. Mayor, we got this item as a discussion item under E. Do you want to wait to do that at that time, or did you want to give them separate and do it twice? Or?
Either one. I mean, y'all had it on there, so I guess if you want to give us an update, you can.
I'd like to wait till you get down to E. If you don't mind, if anybody has a problem with that.
I want to go home to eat.
Yeah.
Now, because he'll try to get out of here too early, so I want to stay.
He wants to go home and eat.
That's not me. I want to stay with us.
Stay here.
So is that fine with everybody? Next item then is President.
I got something.
Wait, anybody else got to see? Okay.
Yeah, we got, on our, packet here, this is report from the police department, the, July enforcement activities. And this is mainly for you, chief, I guess more than anything else. Under the police activities, you have a couple items where there's a burglary. There's no unknown, there's one victim, unknown suspects, and no known items that were stolen. So how could it be a burglary?
Is that the one you're talking about, the Lakeward Boulevard?
Yeah, there's one with Trips Cleaners, and then you got another one down here.
Because they broke the window and entered the premises to commit a crime.
But they didn't steal anything?
They could have attempted to, but the safe is bolted to the floor.
So how's that a burglary then, I guess is what I'm asking, I don't know.
So they broke into the business to commit a crime.
Breaking and entering, isn't it?
Same.
Yeah, okay. And the other thing is down here where you have the drug offenses. When somebody gets arrested for civil possession of marijuana, that's a record, that's an offense that's on the record, right?
That's correct.
Even if it's, I guess simple possession is just a misdemeanor, right? Is that what I'm saying? What about this possession of drug paraphernalia? Is that also a misdemeanor charge?
It is.
It is?
That's
Okay.
time code violation.
Yeah, Now, you said, okay, so I guess my question is now then, if these people got drug offenses, what are the sex of these people, what are ages? Is it so, you got a list of the ages and stuff like that?
I do not. We typically always report it just by the crime and date occurred. We can start adding that if you would like.
Well, I was curious on these particular ones, especially the drug, simple possession of marijuana. If it's a young kid, a teenager or something like that, I don't know what the ages are. You know, if the teenager's getting pinched for this, or if it's
Well,
older adults, or what.
if they're on this, they have to be over the age of 17 or older.
Yeah, but what happens is, they get a record, now they go to try to get into college or something like that, or get a job, and it's on their record, and it's, you know, it's not good, it helps, it hinders them from going forward with life, you know.
Well, these are the charges. There's ways that they can do a conditional discharge. They could have their case heard by a jury and be found not guilty. They can plead not guilty, and we don't have sufficient evidence to judge and find them not guilty. This is just what they were charged with.
Right, and my real concern is this possession of drug paraphernalia, because it's not illegal to buy it in this town, but you're charging with that.
We don't charge them unless there's residue with the paraphernalia. That is correct. We don't make that charge unless there's residue or something with it.
Yeah, but I can go across the street here at the Jiffy Mart and buy a bomb, and I understand that I can get arrested for having a bomb in my car.
Not unless it has residue in it.
Now, it's marijuana and pot.
But I thought that just having paraphernalia is,
No, sir, it has to have some type of residue. If pipe has been used to smoke marijuana, it's drug
so
marijuana.
what was used to smoke tobacco.
We'll take the charge.
But how do you know that when you pull somebody over?
Well, we test it.
Okay. So this is after you tested these things and found that it's
Well,
drug?
typically it's found with the marijuana.
Uh-huh.
And that's why we make that charge. It's found with drugs. That's how we know. You typically find, in this case, you find the marijuana, you find the pipe that was used to smoke it, that's where we make the paraphernalia charge.
Okay. And what are the races of these people at all?
I can get that to you, I don't, you know.
Okay. I'd like to get that from you if you can.
For all the drug offenses?
Yeah, just the drug offenses is what I'm concerned with.
Sorry if I email it to you?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's not against somebody's rights or anything, is it?
No, the rest is public record.
Okay, okay. Well, you don't think anybody 17 or 18 should be arrested for anything if they say they're going to college?
No, I just said that. I want to know what the trend is here. Because it looks like we got a lot of drug offenses in town, and marijuana, and I'm surprised that we don't have any cocaine charges or anything else, or crack or anything like that, but we get a whole bunch of marijuana charges. And I want to see what's going on. I want to see what the trend is here.
All right.
Any other received communication? Seeing none. Next item is presentation by citizens. This is where any citizen who would like to address council on anything that's on the agenda, may do so at this time. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record, and then also the agenda item. So anyone want to address council?
My name is David Charneski from 306 Schillingford Road. Just here to see what, what everybody's what we're gonna do about
What agenda item?
the agenda item would be discussion F.
Okay.
About Old Friars Gate flooding out. I'm here representing Betty Kennedy. She's 80 plus years old. She lives at 413 Charing Cross Road, and she wrote a little note. Am I allowed to read that? Okay. She's concerned. She says that she wrote, we have sewer water coming into my yard during the storms, the past storms. Shredded toilet paper all over my yard is what she wrote. So I just wanted to read that for her. she couldn't make it here tonight to come forward. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alan Williams. I reside at 419 Sharon Cross Road, of course, in Irmo. And I think I want to address the item F concerning the flooding in our area. And I have some pictures that I would like to have y'all take a look at, if that's permissible. Can I bring them forward? Or? Thank you.
So what was your name again?
Alan Williams. I've been out here 27 years, and we've addressed this issue several times. And it was explained to me at one time that it was the responsibility of the highway department. Then the highway department told me it was the responsibility of the county. And I live down from David here, and the last flooding that we had, if you look on side A, the water came in my cars. Item 1, item 2, that's still my front yard. Item 3, that's the back of that's my backyard, and that's my swimming pool, and you can see that it's completely inundated with water. Item 4 on that same page, on page 8, my backyard's completely covered. On page B, item 1, you can see the damages from the flooding, and it's actually, over the years, actually corroded my swimming pool deck, so much so that the last flooding, it literally tore up everything, and of course that's me that's fixing it. And I'm showing y'all the completed picture. It cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. I just finished this. And I'm trying to get some clarity on whose responsibility it is. The county tells me it's the state tells me it's the county. But like I said, I've been here almost 30 years. I've been here almost 30 years. And I keep hearing the same story. It came in my garage, about a foot of my garage. And this has been happening right now close to 30 years. I moved out here in the 80s. And up to this date, no matter who we voted for, I keep getting the same story over and over. It's like I'm getting a runaround on it. But I just wanted, and I apologize, I've done these in color, but wouldn't you know, when I went to run it off this evening, it ran one page and ran out of ink, so. But and I'm not blaming anybody, but that's my home. And if you have a home, you can understand what I'm saying. I just spent all that money again. And I'm not so much asking the city of Irmo for the money, I'm just asking for protection so it won't happen again. All that water that floods, where I live, that's where it all ends up. And then it goes in the ditch behind my house. So I'm really like the public drainage for Irmo right now. And like I said, it's got to be somebody's responsibility. I'm trying to find out who's really responsible for it.
Is that sewage water, or is that just...
Yes, Betty Kennedy is my neighbor, the one yes. Toilet tissue, and I wish I could show y'all in color. One day my pool was blue, the next day it had all kind of stuff in it. And this was the worst I've ever seen it. And like I said, I'm just trying to figure out who is responsible. And I talked with David. I did not know that he had a video. Perhaps y'all have seen the video, but that was the same water that passed by his house ended up in the house. Have there been any resolutions to rectify the problem at all? Are there any plans in place?
That's what we're talking about tonight.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate y'all time. Thank you so much.
Anyone else would like to address council?
Yes. My name's Alan Taylor. I live at 464 Woodhouse Loop in Irmo. And I'm a business owner. I was involved with the Okra Strut last year, and I understand the Okra Strut is on the agenda for tonight. I had a question in regards to the investigation and the final report. Has the mayor received a copy of that final report yet? Okay. I spoke with the, I guess the head investigator. His name was Captain Howard Hughes. And Captain Hughes informed me that that final report had been given to Sheriff Lott. This would have been about 2 weeks ago now. And, you know, that final report is having an effect on my business. I was informed by the town administrator about 2 weeks ago that we would not be returning as the vendor for the Okra Strut because that final report had not been received. I'd like to know if the town had asked to receive that final report.
Yeah, many times.
Many times? Okay. In terms of vendors returning to the Okra Strut, are there any vendors this year who were vendors last year that will be accepted? Okay. All right. Yeah, I guess I was under the, I'd been informed that vendors from last year's Okra Strut would not be allowed back at this year's Okra Strut. And,
No, that's not.
Right. That's what, we can talk about that when we get down
Okay.
there, but I'm glad you just gave us that information, but that's not my understanding, but we'll talk about it.
okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I had.
Anyone else? Next item then is unfinished business, item A. Oh, I'm trying to read here. Approval to compensate Mr. Brown, 118 Boulders Lock Road. Is there a motion for approval? Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
All right. And I will recognize Councilman Walker. Go ahead with first.
All right. Yeah, we talked about this last meeting. Mr. Brown has a situation where his trees that were planted on his property that was planted on his property as opposed to in the right of way. And Mr. Brown has written a letter to us, and we all saw that last week. He's complained about it. And basically he wants to be, we want some resolution with this, whether it's compensated for it. And what we decided as a council is we want to compensate him. The amount of money he's asking for is $8,000, and the amount of money that I suggested is a lot lower than that, but again, we as a council have to talk about that and decide if in fact we will compensate him, and if we do compensate him, what that amount will be. Also, the trees being on his property, we have to decide whether or not by compensating for that, we remove the trees, or do we leave them in place, or, you know, what's the resolution to that? And I think Mr. Brown is looking for us to come up with a solution to that tonight. So that's where we are. I know that we've had some executive session talking about it and legality, and legally we don't have to, we were informed by our attorney, we're not legally bound to do anything at this point in time. But this is our constituent, this is a town resident, and he is complaining about something that was done to him that he feels like he needs to be addressed. So, I don't know if anybody else has any input on that.
Councilman Cook goes.
Well, I'm sorry, I was not here at the last meeting, but I had read the information, and that is the block that I live on. And I know that we went up and down that block, asking people which they preferred, the plantings, and got that information. That was about 7 years ago. And according to the letter that I read from Mr. Brown, he was happy with the trees being there, and said he had agreed. So, you know, I'm kind of at loss as to why we would, if we want the trees removed, I'd be agreeable to remove the trees.
I'm not the attorney for Mr. Brown, but I can tell you that from the conversation we had at the last meeting, Councilman Hoops, Mr. Brown is not so much concerned that the trees were planted. He he loves the trees, from what I understand, he likes the fact that they're there. But he's concerned that when it was planted it on the inside of his property, on his, in his property line. Now, it may have been it probably was an honest mistake, and I'm sure that the Arbor Day committee, who is responsible for paying for those trees and stuff like that, and I guess contracting or just getting WIT to do the work for him, he was out there doing it by hand and doing a very good job of planting those trees. But Mr. Brown is saying, well, that's fine that y'all did that. At the time he was planted, they looked great. He was happy. He went out there to check on it some time after that and saw that all the other trees on that line was planted on the right of way. But when it came to his property, they planted it on his property inside his property line. So now if he wants to go and put a fence up, he's going to have to cover those trees up and to get the fence up. I mean, it's not like it's preventing him from doing that.
I understood he asked that those trees be planted.
Again, I don't know. You can ask Mr. Brown. I don't know if he asked or not. I can't speak for him.
Let me say one thing on this again. I'm getting at this point I'm mostly disgusted. You're making me feel as if I'm a criminal, as if I did something wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. The town of Irmo did it wrong. I asked you for adequate compensation. I asked that of the mayor. The mayor instructed me to write a letter to Mr. Brown, the county administrator, explaining everything. I wrote the letter. Everybody got copies of the letter sitting right up there, and they turned on me. I almost feel like the attorney that the Vice President Dick Cheney shot in the face, and the attorney apologized to Dick Cheney for shooting him. I feel like that. And I ask you for the compensation because of what happened. I got 18 years in law enforcement, South Carolina Department of Corrections, everything from a deputy warden to correctional officer. I got a master's degree in criminal justice from the University of South Carolina, 1977, signed by Jim Edwards. I got 26 months in South Vietnam and Cambodia, and I have 2 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars, and a unit award for valor. I fought for this country like a dog. I fought hard. And it's very frustrating. And when I was also told by you, Ms. Conlon, I don't like to give away money. You're not giving me any money. You're compensating me, that is if it happens, for something that you all made a mistake on. Let me finish, because you did tell me
Do
that.
citizens get to make presentations now, Mr. Mayor?
I
Jesus.
just
want to finish. I just want to get clarification here tonight, and because this has been going on for a month. And whatever is going to be done, I don't know. I don't know what you all are going to decide. But all I know is I was wronged, and I'm made to feel as if I'm the culprit.
Well, I'm sure we're not trying to make you a culprit, Mr. Brown. We're not trying to. I mean, you did what the mayor instructed you to do, and we appreciate that. And we received that communication. Did you see the letter, Harry?
Yes.
Okay. So everybody's seen the letter. Everybody's aware of your position, Mr. Brown, and we just have to make a decision as a council. A, do we compensate them? And if we do compensate them, how much we're going to compensate them? And B, if we do compensate them and give them some remuneration, do we remove the trees or do we leave them there? That's a simple up or down vote, I think,
Anyone else?
We received pretty emphatic legal advice during the last meeting executive session. I am totally in favor. If he would like us to, I think we should cut them down, grind the stump, put sod on it, put it back the way it was. I think that's a legitimate request. I don't know that he has damage, and I'm told that we have his permission. So
told him to write a letter and ask for some remuneration, so he did it. The
Well,
guy's
he
following,
asked me,
he's following the instructions of our leader, Mr. Marion, so with the letter, he did it. Now, the amount of money, he says, tell him what you want, and he told us, I want $8,000. Now, I even said that that's a little bit much, you know. I said you offer him 4,000, but then maybe that's not enough if y'all think that's too much. That's why I'm saying as a council, we have to get together, a council, and decide first, do we compensate them? And if we do compensate them, how much? And even beyond that, if we are gonna compensate them, do we remove the trees like Mr. Collins says, put the side, grind the stumps up, put the side back down so he's back to where he was when we get there?
And are we establishing a precedent? Because for a year or so, a lot of us bought a tree or a crepe myrtle to be planted in our yards, which I was happy to do. But there were quite a few. And if we do this, are we setting the precedent that anybody that doesn't like their tree now, we'll pay you money? That's not good. Because it opens up, we're here representing the town, and we're certainly here to try to do the right thing. In this case, doing the right thing could be the worst thing for the town. Yeah.
well, first of all, let me just say this. When I spoke to Mr. Brown, he came by the shop and went by there and looked at stuff. And he asked about making compensation and how much. And I told him that wasn't my decision, that was his. He just needed to write a letter to the town and ask. So that we could have that. Yeah, well, you're implying something about leadership, I don't know what, but I just want to
I'm
make
telling you, you
that
told
straight.
me to do that,
I
that's
asked
exactly
him
what he
to
did.
To Bob Brown, our town administrator, so that we could all have in front of us everything that everybody had.
And that's what he did, he
And
wrote a
let me-
letter to us.
I didn't
and he
interrupt
said-
you while you spoke, and I like to speak too. I went out there, I think it was last week, I think it was, met with DOT to do some measurements on where the right of way is. Not a survey, because it's cost. But they pretty much measured, where the right of way is. The right of way is where the telephone poles are, pretty much, which means from Charing Cross, from Swimming Pool down to Charing Cross, out of all that stuff that's planted, 2 of them are probably on the right. The rest of them are all on the right. The fence line is not the property line. The property line is probably 2 foot behind the fence line. And there's a couple other houses that they're encroaching about the same amount on their property as they are on Mr. Brown's property. Whether or not anybody else will ever come to us, and estimate, I don't know, but we would be, in my opinion, setting a precedent for that, so I don't know. I think the main thing, and I think the best thing, having a discussion here between us as to what we're gonna do or how we're gonna do it, between someone that we don't really have that opportunity to sit down. I think it's better if Mr. Brown invites Mr. Brown in. They discuss it and come up with something mutual. I agree with Kathy. The best thing is just dig, cut them down, but dig them up. Just dig them, if he would allow us, dig them up, move them back to where they should be, back there, give them stumps out of the way, plant some sod, and get it looking good, and then put our trees back. The only problem with that is, one, if we put them in line with everybody else, they're still gonna be on his property. Because they're on everybody else. If we move them back off of his property, then they're gonna stick out further than anybody else's along that road. So I don't know. But I think again, if they sit down and talk, I think they can come up with something that can be given to us, and then we can say, yeah. And we'll probably get a whole lot closer to getting this resolved than trying to vote and go through all that. That's just my opinion. I would amend the approval, to say, we let Bob Brown meet with him and come up with something and discuss it, and then whatever is discussed.
Your council's discussing now, or your town attorney needs to discuss it with him.
I don't think town attorney does.
you're absolutely right. We need to make that decision, you know, not bow around.
I didn't say about Brown, I said you need to work them out. This is not the place
This
to work out.
This man requested to last meeting to work it out, and that's why he gave us the letter.
There is no policy. You don't have a policy. You planted enough bushes and trees in Irmo until it's running out of your ears. That's the first thing should have been on your books. Policy and procedure governing the planting of trees. Because you're supposed to be able to go to the book and say, hey, Brother Brown, this is where it is. In regards to that, the policy states, boom, 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 boom. Here it is in black and white. We pay $25 a tree. If we abuse your property, we will remove it and do such and such and such. You're operating erroneously on that. You can't just tell me 7 years ago. Where is it written? I've heard everything from 3 years to 5 years to 7 years to 8 years. See, so when there is no standard operating procedure here, we are just grabbing at straws. And you're going to have the same problem down the road with other situations. I'm flexible for anything. I just put down the $8,000 because I judged the tree to be such and such and such. It was 5 of them. I said $1,500 a tree. I'm not here for a fight. I'm here for resolution to a situation. Secondly, you're going to take the trees and dig them up, and they're on my property. They ain't on your property now. So they're my trees. That's also wrong. You have to get permission from me to remove the trees. Yeah, right? You can't just say you're going to remove the trees. The best thing to do is do the proper word was adequate compensation. I don't care what it is. Just make me feel all right.
Okay, do you have damage?
See, there you go again. I don't have damage. I told you that the trees look good, Miss Condon. They look good there. If I wanted to do something with my property, I can't. Your trees are in my way. I can't put a wooden fence there. I can't put a chain link fence there. I can't do anything. All I'm saying is, let's come to an agreement tonight. I'm tired of coming down here about this. Do the right thing, whatever it is. You know, I make more money than Lindsey Graham do, retired in the military. He did 33 years in the Air Force and a retired colonel. And I'm still making $300 more a month than him for his military check. Did you know that? So I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about what's right. And let's just do the right thing. Quit, you're jumping over here, you're hem-hawing and hedging. I was told a week before last to shut up. You know, I'm talking. You know what? You don't do that. And you need to get yourselves together instead of just sitting down here every night around and around in a circle. My PTSD coming up. Let me say. Well, just do the right thing and let me out of here.
Any more discussion? Y'all want to make an amendment?
In light of that,
Change it, change things, or y'all want to?
I'd be glad to entertain an amendment that we vote up or down. I say we give Mr. Brown $1,000 for his aggravation, and that's $200 a tree, 5 trees, right?
Yeah.
Is that 5 trees? Give him $1,000, and then Mr. Brown will be happy, and we'll get out a picture, and I'm glad to make that.
Are you willing to do that for anybody else that comes forward?
I'm willing to do that for Mr. Brown, I said.
No, we have to do it for anybody else.
Hey, nobody else is up here right now. I'm willing to do that for Mr.
I'll
Brown.
be up here 2 weeks. I'll take care
Yeah,
of it.
well, then do that, then. That's your prerogative. If you felt like you have
No.
been wrong, and like Mr. Brown feels, you have more than right to come up and do that.
I gave them permission, and that's the only question I have is, did they have permission? If they did.
Okay, where's the written permission? Where's the paper that says that you agree? Where's the sign on?
But if we have no
I'm saying.
witnesses, I'll go with verbal.
That's fine, but I'm saying if there was
You have a member
permission.
of council here that asked.
That's fine. I mean, if that was the case, where's the signature on the piece of paper that I give you permission to plant it at this location?
Well, not really, that's the way it was stated.
Okay.
In the letter that he wrote,
Yes,
he gave permission.
he agreed to it.
He agreed to
He
it.
agreed to the plan. Okay.
amendments? Anybody ready to vote?
On the amendment, or,
All we got is a.
well, I'm gonna make an amendment to be given $1,000. I'd like to amend my motion to be given $1,000.
Is there a second? Motion fails, or amendment fails, rather. So we're back to the approval.
Okay. So, after you told the man to do what he did, you wrote the letter and asked for compensation. You don't wanna give him compensation, that's fine, let's vote it up or down, say, we're not gonna compensate him for it. And that's what's on the table right now.
Y'all ready to vote? Any changes? The motion is to approve compensate Mr. Brown, 118 Vultures Lock Road. All in favor?
With no amount in it, I mean, that's
What's
compensation.
on the paper?
Okay. Okay.
All in favor? All opposed? And I would still say Mr. Brown wants to come meet with Mr. Brown and discuss it. And see what else, whatever, that's fine too. I think the board's
There's
still-
nothing to discuss, you just voted it
That's
down.
up to him and not you.
There's nothing to discuss, you just voted it that you're not gonna compensate the man. What is he even
That's
just
up to
around
him.
for?
That's up to him.
That'd be
There's
a worth,
something else.
that'd be a worthless trip,
Yeah.
Mr.
There's
Brown.
something else we
Mr.
could do.
Brown, that'd be a worthless trip for that, Mr. Brown, because you heard the council speak.
Well,
The
if
council-
somebody
council
made a
said-
suggestion to dig them up, move them, and do some other stuff, I think they'd do too. I
Because
don't
of
know.
his years of service,
I'd have
then
to-
I think we ought to try.
He said, he didn't say he would accept it, but I suggested give him $1,000.
The next item on the agenda is first reading of ordinance 1513 to annex property located at Richland County Tax Map 2314-0126, Salem Church Road. And is there a motion for first reading?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I don't know if Mr. Brown needs to inform us anything, or?
No, that's why I sent the paper maps out Friday, so everybody get an idea where this property was.
And
Is this swampland?
I'm sorry?
What is this property? Is it swampland, vacant,
It's undeveloped.
undeveloped?
Yes.
And I see this little red line, which is the county line.
That's the county line going down by the bottom,
I
it's
see
so
those
close to the
little-
water.
Is that the water right there where that place is, or?
The water comes right a little bit below that, and this is the little point that comes down on the water. It's a bad map that we had, you know.
And these two properties that are not in the yellow, green, color here,
Correct, it's true.
they're not related to these people here, we don't know how to bring them in any time, any kind of whatever.
But it's almost on the water.
Now, this other property,
That's not on the water?
years ago, is it, what's the zoning on all this other stuff we brought in a lot of times?
It's all it's a lot of FA and there's one RG in there.
Bring that,
I mean, I can look it up for you, exactly, yeah.
and they wanted what, on this?
Archie.
General residential,
Yeah.
which, is that just condensed housing now under the new stuff, or is it?
Well, RG's, I don't know, they have said.
They assessed,
Yeah.
So anything like zero lot line or?
he wanted more density.
Correct, and he hasn't brought anything to us.
Yeah, they
But
just,
not the apartments or anything else, it's just multifamily, it's just close density.
Correct, correct, not apartments, we don't allow apartments.
Any other questions?
Do we know who owns it? I saw where Stan Mack brought it to our,
Frank and Martha Nesbitt,
who?
Nesbitt.
Okay.
You know, we continue to annex these properties, they're gonna be building probably some fine homes in there, like, I probably need to find you one of those homes I can live into and move into. But we have to look at the fact that every time we do that, we're gonna be taxing our resources and services for the town. We have to figure out a way that we can get some revenue from these annexations to compensate for the growth in the community. I mean, I know you're talking about we need to grow the town, and we grow the town with bodies and residents, and I understand that. But it just scares me when we keep annexing, 170 houses over here on Irmo Drive, and then now this property here, which will probably have another 50 or so houses and stuff like that. There's gonna come a time where we have annexed so much residents in the town limits that we can't afford to service them without any more revenue coming in. And we don't have a tax in the town, so we have to figure out a way to bring in these new towns, bring in these new subdivisions to get some kind of enumeration for that. So,
How big a piece of property is it?
13.
13.
And that big chunk of land that's right there, that borders Highway 6, that's on this fringe agriculture. Who knows how that's going to ever be developed, but I would imagine that the stuff that's along Highway 6 probably will be commercial. And everything behind it probably residential or some sort. So I think at some point when that property does develop, it would be some type of commercial type environment that would be. I know people have looked at that property, a couple of different people have looked at that property, and yeah, that big old, right across from that little subdivision, Sage Fair, whatever it says, all that land there.
That's what.
Yeah. And I think everything that they looked at doing would be something great, but the economy is 100% there from a good year.
When the chief meets more people, I'm sure he'll tell us.
And then we don't get that much request. And I think probably the same reason on this here, it's on Richmond County side, not the Lincoln County side. I'm sure, you said Stan Mack, or Girl Still, what do you mean?
Stand by.
I think they would much rather deal with Irmo stuff instead of dealing with Richmond County.
We should have made Costco and all.
Any more discussion?
I'm sure the chief, when he decides he needs more resources, he'll say, hey, council, I need 5 more police officers and 5 more cars to patrol these areas that we've expanded into. He'll tell us, but my question is going to be then, how are we going to pay for that? How are we going to pay for that resources without a tax increase or imposing a tax or millage rate to the town members? Well, we can't impose a millage rate, but how are we going to do that? And that's all we're going to ask you, Bob, to look at investigating in the back of your mind a way to do that. Maybe an impact tax or something when you do these subdivisions or something like that. I don't know.
We can't just bring a subdivision and tax them on.
No, I'm saying the impact fee. We don't control our business license. Building permits.
Well,
That's county, right? Maybe taking that back over. Taking that, doing our own building permits. That would be a way to at least get some kind of revenue out of this.
Well,
That's why we need a building department.
Okay.
Wow. We were there one time for.
but you get some natural growth here too.
Mhm.
The area up around Walmart is a prime example of that. We brought a lot of acreage in there,
Yeah.
over and above what the developers for the property that Walmart occupies. Business only goes where there are people. And as the people come, the businesses will follow. And if you look at this, you've got Dreer Shoals Road, which is Highway 6. A lot of that property will, just by rights, go commercial, because that's a major highway there. And, you've got the Publix right down the road from there, that shopping center. As those businesses go in with business licenses, there's where the funding comes, just like in the Walmart area. Walmart doesn't pay a property tax to Irmo either, nor any any of the other small businesses that, but they do pay a business license fee.
And those have been going up in the last couple of years.
Yes.
Economy taxes.
And we've even got some places that's going in there that are tax-free. For everything, like the hospital. You know, you absorb that by bringing the business in and in a controlled way, and I think that's what we've done a very good job of doing.
And across from Walmart up there, there's a place when you're up there, I can't think of it, it's down here, it's all like that, so.
I think it's an AT&T office.
And I also noticed, Jack's probably happy, but his building sold, and they're remodeling that building up there.
It's selling.
They're selling, well, they're doing a lot of work on it.
Well, we certainly are. It's a whole lot of work. It's gonna be nice.
And then, I think I saw a whole bunch of people working in, whatever it is, Irmo Village.
There's a lot, 2 new businesses.
Yeah, Capri, and they're remodeling that place, so.
See, that's a difference, that's a difference for those things. If you told me this annexation was gonna be a Costco, I would say, hey, let's do it, just go for it. But it's not, it's gonna be residents, and residents don't pay a millage rate, we don't pay any taxes, per se, into the town of Irmo. That's the difference. I mean, when we brought in that Walmart, that was a windfall for us. I mean, we haven't shown.
But they don't pay any property tax.
Right, but they do business like that on a regular basis.
That's
You know,
right.
That's a way to offset that, you know what I mean?
And that's what I think we'll see there along Drury Shoals Road, is
Right.
calculated risk, but it's,
Yeah.
It's a good risk.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that property will.
future behavior is based on past behavior, and that's
And
what's happened.
we want all these businesses that are already there to do better.
Right. And they will do better when more people come.
Yeah, but across the street, Woodlands, they're building whatever
Well,
they're.
maybe look at that, Bob, is there a way for us to put together our own business, like our own building permit department or something like that? Where we can get that revenue for those new housing starts, as opposed to just giving it to the county and giving it to whoever it is. You know, what I mean, just,
And that, whatever that, local government fund is based on population too, so. The more residents we have, the more we get of that, if the state would fund it like they're supposed to do. And then we also get that 3% franchise fee, which can go up to 5, but ours is at 3. And that's something. And you could always still, and I'm not saying we should, but in garbage, just say $200 a year, let's just say. You could always charge $250. And that money would help offset services too. That's just, I mean, that would be whatever. Any more discussion? All in favor then of first reading to annex property at ordinance 1513 on Salem Church Road, do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next item is first reading of ordinance 1514 to amend the Irmo zoning ordinance regulating off-street parking. Article 2, Table 1, to reduce the off-street parking requirements for manufactured, industrial, and mini warehouses. Is there a motion for first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
That's
You want to kind of
bad.
explain something?
Well, the way our ordinance is currently set up, we require off-street parking as parking places for big businesses based on the size of the building, square footage. And case in point, we've got Select Comfort out there on Western Lane, and they want to expand. Well, they don't need 300 more parking places to bring in 50 more employees. And that's kind of bottom line where we're at here. We should be basing our parking requirements on how many people they have on a shift, their major shift. And the second part of the storage unit, the same thing. You got all these big enclosed storage units, might have 3 units big parking lots that are empty.
And I think this is the way Richland County does it,
City of Columbia and Richland County. they have-
Yeah.
but it makes sense.
I think we amended our hotel parking at one point, and I think we amended
We did.
the walkout parking because that required rules.
Correct.
I don't know, we need to look at the other ones too, especially with, e-commerce, whatever you call it, people buying stuff online, stuff coming into the store, to limit some of that, parking space. Some of that asphalt, maybe we can look at all of it. And I think you said this came about because when we changed from
The old SIC.
NCI,
SIC.
SIC, yeah,
To the name.
to the name,
Next.
that some of that stuff is different than the old way.
Correct.
Or maybe some of those others too. Because we don't know if some people are just saying, I want my building there because.
Well, if they look online, that's what they're gonna see. Do we change it?
Some of that stuff is changing.
We don't have a lot of manufacturing in Dustman,
No.
and we ought to encourage that which we have.
A lot of that being automated, they probably don't have as many employees today as they used to when you did it by hand. I don't know. Any more discussion? All in favor then of first reading on ordinance 1514, just so show of hands. All opposed? Next item is an approval to purchase a hustler mower from Pumpkin Power Equipment in the amount of $10,839.12. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second. Harvey, and then Paul. Any discussion?
Yeah, why are we buying Hustler? Why not John Deere or Honda or something like that? Why do you get stuck on Hustler all the time? Not the magazine.
Oh, they like the hustlers.
They've held up well and they're less expensive.
They're on state contract too, are they not?
Straight contract price too.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that made in Japan or something like that, or China or something like that?
That's an American product.
That's an American product? Well, I thought that was a Japanese product, not a Chinese product.
Well, I think we ought to buy it.
Yep. State contract too, and American made, and lowest price, and homes up. Sounds good. Any more discussion? All in favor? Do so show of hands. Next item is approval to transfer $10,000 from the accommodations tax fund to the post truck fund. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion.
All right, this is the, Department of Revenue ruling Bob has given us on the accommodation tax fund.
And I need to say something before you
Okay.
get into all this. As Hardy and I looked up, we both talked to the municipal association. That only goes into effect with that formula if we make more than $50,000 a year from our accommodation, which is the hotel that we have in town. And we're not at that. The first year we got 11,000, last year we got 28,000, and this year we currently got 20, so we'll probably never go to the 50,000. And what that means is 100% of this money goes into the general fund.
And we can basically do whatever. We don't have to follow those guidelines until we get
To the 50,000.
over 50. Now, there was a question, I don't know if you verified that, as to whether it was what the hotel generated or whether it was what we received.
No, I
And
haven't.
we probably not close to it anyway, but someone had told me that it didn't matter what we received, it's what we generate. Some places generate and they don't get all they receive. Some places get more than they generate because of the formula work that DOR decides if you're I can't remember what they call it, if you're a high probability destination area, then you get more money than if you're not. And that's how they steal money from some cities and give it to others.
Yeah, it's just like road tax.
Yeah.
We're a donor state.
Yeah, and we could be a
Oh, we
donor or
can.
receiver. But he said, when we get close to the 50, then we probably need to go check and make sure, are we getting more than, are we generating 50 or just getting less? Or
Okay.
explain to us.
So
after you do the formal, before you do the formal, or just when you start getting money, that I think you're supposed to use it within 2 years. There's something in there about it.
I read something in here about that too,
But,
to qualify for future years.
yeah,
That's not automatic every year? I thought it was every year we get that.
well, we get it every quarter. I think.
Every quarter, but if you don't use it, then you,
That may be only after you're doing the 50% because it's
They don't know
over
where you use
50,000.
it.
I think that's only.
after we get to the 50.
Because once you get to that 50, then there's
Set up separate accounts.
certain
Yeah.
people that can get the money, and then we got to do a committee for the other part of the year.
Nonprofit.
So right now, it's going in our general fund.
And then we can do whatever we want to with this.
I can add up to
And
60,000.
we collected
That's
46.
okay.
46,000. I think the object of this is we need to build a building now.
Like I said, more exactly. But let me get, why are you only asking for 10,000?
Well, when we were talking with the auditor and thinking that we had already met that 50,000 threshold, it's very clear in here that what percentage goes to the general fund, what percentage goes to the promotions and advertising and that kind of thing. So we thought we were there,
Yeah.
only to find that we weren't there. So we don't have to establish that committee, we don't have to jump through those hoops until we get to that $50,000 threshold.
Now, we take this $10,000 out, that drops down to $36,000 left in that fund?
Well, it's still back in the general fund. Again, we don't have to account for the money.
Okay, but my point is this, is that the $50,000 threshold is met per year, or is it just cumulative? Because right now, we accumulated for the last 2 years, $46,000.
Yeah, we're not at we probably will never get to 50,000 per year.
No,
We don't know
per
that.
year.
Probably not.
Let's say the windfall over there, and start looking at more big shows that they orchestra.
And one of those, last year, was for a whole,
Oh, we was 28,000 last year, the whole 12 months.
now the first 6 months of this year's already been 20, so it may be 40.
Correct.
So that's how I came up with the 10,000.
That's fine, that's fine.
Well, being that we discussed the police fund, too, I'm gonna make a motion, and whether it gets a second or not, but I'll make a motion that we, also transfer 10,000 to the Irmo Police Department to kind of help offset the overtime for the orchestra, which kind of goes into that too. That would be my motion, so is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second that.
Well, can I say something? I
Yeah.
don't think that we reimburse, I mean, the town already pays for the police overtime.
We do, yeah, we pay it kind of out of our,
But we're paying out of the police department money, and the mayor is saying we just ought to put 10,000 in the police department personnel.
out of this fund to help.
It doesn't have to, the way I understood it, that they could use it for that, but I know that you're fixing to make a change on firearms, upgrade, that's getting close to that 10 grand.
No, it won't cost us, but
But you could use it for that as well.
What firearms upgrade, we buying Uzis?
our upgrading from old 10-year-old guns to the Gen 4 Glocks. And Glocks will buy back our weapons at $347, and they're gonna charge us $409 for new ones, so it's a big deal. And it expires October 1st.
So we did $8,000 worth of guns for $2,000.
Good deal.
So, but Mayor, the way I understand your
Yeah, it would
motion
be,
was to
add 10,000, so we got 10 to the orchestra and 10 to the.
transfer 10 to the orchestra and 10 to the police department. But
Doesn't that change their budget though? Well, we'll get to it in a second, but if they got $5,000 budgeted for law enforcement, they wouldn't need to have that anymore, because we got 10,000 saying the 10,000 we give to the police department, they wouldn't need to pay for it twice. They wouldn't need to spend 5,000 for
Well,
the
that
whole
goes
thing.
to, part of that goes to the county too.
I thought that's what this 10,000 was there for. Oh, no.
This is for
Except
our,
that pay our police officers.
Okay, okay, that's a little other guys.
Okay. Did you get that? What we did?
The 10,000 to the Irmo Police Department pay for, overtime for the orchestra?
Well,
Yeah,
10,000 to the police department and 10,000
Yeah.
to the orchestra.
If he says for overtime for the orchestra, why are you doing it? You got the line item.
No, I didn't say over.
No, he said for the
Well,
overtime
I
for the
said-
orchestra.
He was using that as an example.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But not necessarily gonna go to the overtime for
then
the
it just
orchestra.
goes in their account and then
So they can buy,
they
they
can party.
can buy new locks.
All right,
40
well,
caliber
no,
Glocks.
okay, back up. We're doing 10,000 just to go to the Irmo Police Department.
Right.
Not for the orchestra. Okay.
Right.
20,000.
But that's what I'm
Right.
saying.
But I mean,
give-
I'm not, it's not for overtime.
Correct.
I don't want to put something in there that.
Okay.
Okay.
So we need to vote on the amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first, yeah, to vote on the amendment of $10,000 to the Irmo Police Department. All in favor of that amendment, please show your hand.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
I didn't
I'll
know.
second. You're a second?
Well, no, I made the motion, I think.
We all-
You made the motion, I say.
Yeah,
Okay.
second. All right, now, back to the approval to transfer 10,000 to the, from the accommodation tax fund to the orchestra and 10,000 to the Irmo Police Department as a whole. Any more discussion about that? All in favor then, be so short. Next item is discussion on the orchestra.
And this will be Kurt's.
Yeah, this is where I asked for an update on where we are with the orchestra festival. And Mr. Luther, if you would enlighten us, please. Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. As you know, we've been meeting monthly since the last orchestra. And we're online, we're below budget. Our sponsorships are coming in accordingly. Our participants in the parade, the food vendors, the arts and crafts, they're all starting to fill up. Slowly but surely, but that's usually where it is at this time of the year. We have 26 participants in the parade. We have 45 arts and crafts vendors at this point, 17 food vendors.
Tell me that again, we have what, how many vendors, food vendors and art?
17 food vendors,
Oh, I see.
45 arts and crafts, and 26 parade entries at this point.
Okay.
We're at a obligated at 34.5 in our spending. Our budget, well, we were looking at 65.2, so we're well. Most of the items are well below budget. So.
Okay. Are you open for questions?
I'm open for questions.
All right, let's start with the food vendors.
Okay.
How much does it cost for a booth for the festival this year?
How much is it? Well, there's a per item charge. We have Bob can probably tell you right off the top of his head. If you have, instead of doing the ticket system, when we abolished the ticket system, we went to a per item
Yes, 0 to
charge.
5, a certain amount, like, I think it started at 350, and then 6 to 10 was either 400 or 450, the highest was 600. So the lowest was 350 for the food vendors, for their privilege fee, we'll call it, and the highest was 600 if they were selling over 15 items.
Okay, that's the privilege fee, right?
That's the privilege.
What about the booth fees? The booth fee goes from 200 to 500.
Yeah, it's 200 is the food fee, that hasn't changed for anybody.
Well, Turkish Grill's paying $500. We got 3 booths.
That includes their privilege fee.
No,
That's the total check that we got from them.
no.
Turkish Grill,
Turkish Grill's got a $500 booth fee.
and a $450.
That's a privilege fee for
Well, that's
Power too.
because they've got 2 booths and electricity, which is $100. That's two $200 booths and 1 electricity.
Okay, I got you.
Yes.
So they got 2 booths,
Correct.
2 spots.
2 spots. We don't really have, they're not
Okay.
measured.
So, all right, so when somebody asks me, how much does it cost for a booth, I can tell them it's $200.
And if
Plus,
they want electricity.
If
it's
they
not
want electricity, $50. And then you have to have the privilege fees, which are calling it, is the line item, 0 to 5 items they're selling.
Right.
It's $350.
That's correct.
And nobody's duplicating, like you don't have 10 people selling hot dogs.
No.
Y'all make sure that wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to micromanage your committee, I'm just
Right.
asking that question.
No, they're not. We're
Yeah.
watching what they're bringing in. And if you got questions about that, the easiest way to direct somebody who has a question about it, just direct them to the website and they can look at the application.
Well, they did, that's why they asked me the question, they were confused as, they said the booth fee was $250, and they said they didn't understand how this privilege thing works, and that's what they were asking me, and I didn't know, but now I do.
It's spelled out in the application, but
So we were collecting, like, let's say we had 5 items on the menu, we
Yeah.
collected the 200 for the booth, the 100 for electricity, and the 350. So we've got $650 from them, but they get to keep all the money they make.
Yeah.
No more cash changing hands.
So what you're saying, yeah, for instance,
It's really better than the vendor.
Big Easy,
Yeah.
Correct.
Big Easy's, what's that, Snowballs? Is that what that is? The last one.
The
Big
last
Easy
one,
Snowball.
Is
Big
that Snow?
That's
That's
New
what you-
Orleans. That's how
Snowball.
it smells.
That's
Things
Snow.
for Snow? Okay.
Yeah, that's, we got snow cones, we got a 99, and we've got a shaved ice, so the 3, and that's what that is right there. That's all they're gonna do.
So they got 2 booths at $450, right? And then they don't have a privilege fee though. What is their privilege fee? Should have been $100, right?
No, because that's not a food vendor.
Snowballs?
Well, it says it is, but I have to ask Captain, oh, I'll tell you what it is right now without Captain being here. We get their menu and they send in their booth fee and the registration, and they send the menu. Once we approve it, make sure that they're not selling the same thing everybody else is. We send them a letter back and say, okay, we've taken this off and this off and this off, and your fee is gonna be X amount of money. And she'll fill that in when they send us a check.
I got you.
We get the first check, and then once we verify the privilege, they'll send another check.
Now, this Grant Foster's Beverages, he's got 1 booth, $200. Is that right?
Correct.
But he's selling beer.
No,
Is that the beer guy?
no. The beer guy
I'm sorry.
is Budweiser. Donna is still the beer lady. And Black Tie bartending is the one that's doing the beer bartending.
Where they at?
They're not on here. Because they don't pay us. They pay us 20% of what they sell. At the end. We're still collecting 20% from them. We're still collecting 20% from the amusement ride folks. You're not gonna see them on here. They don't have any prepayment.
Well, I'm sure y'all figured out how to calculate that, but how
Yep.
do y'all come about, how do you determine how much beer this guy's gonna sell that night? By his invoices from Budweiser,
Mhm.
or is that how you're gonna do it? Okay.
I already talked to Donna and him, and they've got it worked out where we're gonna go by Friday night and Saturday night.
But he's not paying a booth fee.
No, because we asked him. We asked him, he's not asking us to come make money. We had to go out and find a bartender because of the issue we had with,
No, wait a minute now. We asked, last year, we asked, as bartender to do it, but I'm sure he paid a fee.
no, he can pay a fee up front.
He can pay a site fee,
He got paid by ticket, for his ticket, based on
Right.
his sales.
but you just subtract out his ticket sales,
I'm not aware that they paid the booth fee. I wasn't involved last year. I don't think they paid anything. They just came and sold beer and they got to keep based on how much beer they sold.
6 entries in parade. And more of the hubbub last year about, from Mr. Glassmeyer and Hardy about how we could have made more money. Everybody should have paid $100 to be in a parade entry, that's $2,600 in revenue. We don't have $2,600, we got $1,500.
No, because they don't all pay. They pay $100 or $25 if they're a nonprofit. It's not $100 across the board for those, even though Mr. Booth kind of fought against that one. He wanted it to just be free, but,
Yeah.
you know, we still have to pay $100 for a parade entry unless you approve a nonprofit, and it's only $25. You go down and see what they pay.
Yeah, no, that's it.
And y'all are still anticipating more parade,
Oh, yeah.
We have 3 more this afternoon, but that's not included on this list.
more arts and crafts, or is that pretty much?
Last year we had like, I think there were 80-something arts and crafts last year, and
Can you make it some more food vendors, or is that about,
no.
that's about it?
You know, we kind of run out because, like Barry said, we don't want to duplicate. We
Right.
want everybody to have a chance to make some money.
So you'll get a little bit more money from the parade, and a little bit more money from the arts and crafts.
Arts and crafts is $100 or $95?
It is.
$95 for arts and crafts on
Yeah.
Saturday?
And then you'll get your 5% from the, and the retail, and all that.
Okay, so now, let me get back to the, let's go back to the beverage vendor. What meetings y'all had when y'all decided that all the beverage vendors were not, or certain members of the food vendors were not allowed to come back?
Well, we didn't have a meeting on that.
Hmm?
That wasn't discussed on the commission meetings.
That was not discussed on the commission?
No, it was, you know, obviously there was a investigation going on.
Yeah, the criminal investigation overstrip. We all
There
know
was
that.
a lot of rumors, a lot of allegations, unfounded allegations, and with no finish to this, you know, with we have no reports. We have very little information from the actual investigation itself, so.
Right. So, how do we
And
come?
it was taken out of the commission's hands, basically, it was taken out of the commission's hands.
Okay, so
You
how?
appointed a coordinator for the orchestra, even though, even though we were allowed to have an administrator, and the ordinances still state that we're allowed to have an administrator. But we were denied that this year, and that's fine, we're past that.
Right.
The point is that we have a coordinator who is making some of those decisions on his own, right or wrong, you know, I don't know, but.
So that unilateral decision was made by the coordinator not to allow for instance, the beverage vendor last year to participate this year because of the criminal investigation orchestra is still out there and hasn't been resolved.
That's correct.
Yes.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay, and that's fine. That's where we are because of the impending criminal investigation that the mayor wants to release on the preliminary report, and we haven't gotten the final report from the sheriff either. So then all of the vendors or just the one vendor is penalized?
There was everything was put in question, obviously. Everything was put in question, including our commission.
What do you mean everything was put in question? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, we were accused, there was criminal investigation going on.
Right.
So, I mean, everything's being looked at, everything was put in question. It's the fact that there is no report leads us to believe that they must not have been able to find anything that was criminal.
Okay.
But in the meantime, there's an air of suspicion placed over
Right.
the whole event.
The whole event, yeah.
So
How do you make a decision, or how do you come about and make a decision that this one vendor should be penalized and can't participate in the orchestra, but yet we go back to the same Budweiser again and have them do the same, provide the same beverages? I mean, they were the ones that provided beer last year. And they're not being penalized, they're still making money selling Budweiser or whatever.
they're a supplier, period. They're not a seller. They're not a
Well,
seller. They
Coors-
sell to the.
Coors Light is a supplier too. I prefer Coors Light.
Well, Budweiser sells to the distributor, the
Right.
vendor,
Right.
okay? But, and they make a deal, and what they don't sell, they sell back to Budweiser,
Right.
which is fine, you know, and that they can keep tabs of,
But my point is this, if you're penalizing the end guy, why didn't you go further and penalize Budweiser also, say, well, we don't want to deal with Budweiser, and go to Coors?
I don't want to penalize anybody.
Well, you said it was the guy, the cloud of suspicion is out there.
There's a cloud of suspicion, yeah.
Because the mayor won't release the report and the investigation is not complete. So the cloud of suspicion is still out there, and our vendors are being penalized and did a fine job last year. They did what they did. They sold beer, they turned in the tickets, we counted the tickets in error, we counted the tickets, and then we said, okay, oh, we gave you too much money, so we're gonna penalize you this year.
Is that what happened? Is that what
That's
happened?
the-
We
that's what
counted the
happened.
tickets
Penalizing
wrong?
the
Is
guy.
that, I don't know. There's no final report. We have no idea what happened.
But there's a preliminary report that the mayor won't release, and that could release the.
I haven't seen that either. I mean, I don't know.
Nobody's seen it, except for him, but that's.
Basically, what you end up
I looked at
with,
it in my shop one day too,
what the final report?
the page, now the preliminary report, you look at that page, and whatever y'all are discussing on
Okay.
there.
Oh, you seen the preliminary report?
Maybe I have. I don't,
All right.
I guess so. But the thing is, I don't want to penalize anybody. All these vendors work hard. They come to this event to make money. There is the commission. It was taken out of the commission's hands as far as that went. We've always in the past allowed our administrator to make those kind of decisions because that's the person who's keeping up with the details.
But
Who's
the
selling
committee,
what?
The orchestra committee is supposed to get together and say, okay, we want to have Tokyo Joe, we want to have
Mhm.
such and such band play, we want to put out on the, they apparently they didn't do that because
I was
this,
there the night they did
well,
that.
apparently they didn't do that because this guy at Ed's Bartending tells us that he's told that he can't participate because of a kerfuffle on our side that is affecting him.
Okay, I don't know about that. That's a buddy of yours, so I don't know about that. I do know, this is the best I've ever seen of anything.
Well,
It's what? I'm sorry.
It's the best I've ever seen of information.
Well, I think Bob's doing a great job. I mean, he really is. I mean,
Honestly.
he should have kudos.
We know where we are.
We do know where we're at.
But my concern is when people are saying, I'm being penalized, I can't participate because of something that happened that's out of their control. And literally, it was not his doing
Mhm.
that he got overpaid, if he got overpaid. If the criminal investigation came up and says that he was overpaid, or whoever else was overpaid, there's some other people.
Well, if anybody was overpaid, my personally, as the chairman of the commission, would be to talk to the commission and see if we could have a conversation with those people, if we indeed overpaid anybody.
No, they didn't do that, I suspect.
Well, we don't have any conclusions. There's nothing,
There's nothing
that's
to
what
talk
I'm
about.
saying.
He's
There's
gonna-
nothing to talk about because we don't have a final report. I don't know,
Again-
I don't know where anything lies, so I can't go out and say, hey, we
Again-
overpaid you,
And again, the mayor could simply address this by releasing the preliminary report so that at least know where it's going. But he won't do that, and then on top of that, the final report's being held up for whatever
Never
reason.
seen it.
Not the final report.
Nobody's seen that.
Yeah.
it's a tough place to be in. It's hard to,
What other vendors were told that they couldn't participate this year because of
I don't
the
know.
fuffle we had last year?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to penalize anybody, and I don't think that,
Well, Bob, is there any other vendors that were told that they couldn't participate this year because of the criminal investigation, the overstructure?
No, Ed Bartending is the only one, and that's because 6 months ago, the investigator said that they were looking into the finances and the payment that they made to Ed Bartending, and they would get back to me. Well, it's been 6 months and we still don't have a final report, so we've got an ongoing investigation. I had to hire a bartending service for this orchestra. I don't know when the report's coming out. And I couldn't wait. But I couldn't pick heads again because of the fact that they're in the investigation. That's what I was told. Well, I mean, I was told by the investigator, but they're under investigation. Other than that, I don't know what's going on. I haven't got a
So
final
this
report.
man is being criminally investigated for the orchestra for something that he had no control over.
I wasn't involved last year. I don't know.
No, I'm saying, that's
Yeah.
what you're saying. Ed's bartending is being penalized because of a criminal investigation. He had no control over how it was done on our side, but he's being penalized for this.
I don't know that as a fact. I know that because it's under investigation, I wasn't going to get him again until it got cleared up.
which is a prudent thing to do. I don't think Ed's bartending did anything wrong. I don't think any vendors did anything wrong. If they got overpaid, it was because the way we did it was at fault. The tickets were wet, the scales were off, it was antiquated. I don't know. I have no idea what it was. But if that was the case, I think that it goes on us, not on any of the vendors. And I can understand Ed's bartending being upset nobody had this discussion with him. Or gave him an opportunity to do it again this year. So maybe we can do it with him again next year.
Since your eyes have seen the preliminary report, I think you can tell from your preliminary report where we're going, the direction it's going, right?
I have no idea what direction they're going. There was numbers and guesses and so on and so forth. I also saw something later that had people that were, everything was pretty much, as far as the weights and the payments and so on, everything was very, very close. So I can't say. No, there's no final report. So without having something, final in front of me, I can't make a judgment.
Kirk, in your opinion, is this a better way to do it?
It lacks growth.
It what?
It lacks growth.
Uh-huh.
It's very, like you said, we know exactly where we're at. Problem is, we're going to know exactly where we're at come the day of the festival. We're not going to, if we had 10,000 more people, or 10,000, we had 1,000 more people, we're not going to make any more money.
If it pours down rain, though.
Pours down rain, we're in pretty good shape.
We're in
But
good shape.
we don't want to hope for rain. We want a great festival, and we want everybody to make some money and have a good time. This is a great way for the vendors to cash in.
And don't get excited about if it pours down rain, we know where we were. If it pours down rain, your privilege side here changes as part of the agreement with the vendors.
I understand.
It still works in the town's favor, but
They don't have to pay that privilege fee if it rains?
Depending on how much it rained and all, but there would be some concession.
it's prorated.
So maybe in the future, we ought to consider $1 a head for Friday night or.
Maybe. I mean, there's always, it's always been, for 42 years, it's been a free event. But there's always room for looking at different things to do. I do think you should have a free parade. I don't think you should charge anybody to be in a parade. I think if Dwight Derrick wants to drive his little John Deere tractor, up the street, I think it ought to be free.
I've already talked to him, he knows, can't do it.
He can't do
I
it.
know, but I'm just saying if he was. He did it last year, broke down in the middle of the parade, I think. But those kind of things, I think that side of it, that community side of it should be free. And we can, pick up money somewhere else doing something, maybe more sponsors or whatever. I know we got a $5,000 grant, or not a grant, but from the hospitality from our restaurants in Irmo. And we had $5,000 in the budget for the parade, and I thought that would be appropriate to stick that over there and let everybody,
We can make changes next year. or
Does
whatever.
the City of Columbia or Lexington, do they charge when they have like their, we call it Christmas parade? We don't have a-
they might, I don't know.
No.
This is Irmo though, Mayor. I was addressing what we ought to do in Irmo.
Carolyn.
But they don't
I
have
think
to
the parade
put it
ought
on
to
it
be free.
either.
Come on. Charge the Girl Scouts $100, walk up the street. That's terrible. But that's me. That's me.
Any more questions, discussion? Next item is item F, discussion to create an account for flood mitigation in the old fire pit community, organized community input with all the affected homes in the upper Moccasin Bridge area and contract with Genesis Engineering to develop a plan to increase drainage capacity. So, Ms. Walker, turn it over to you.
We, at the last meeting, we had a whole discussion on, the problems they were having over in, Friday Street with the, flooding and stuff, and they had heavy rain events, and Dennis Engineering prepared a report that we got. I had an opportunity to look over the report, and I called Dennis Engineering up and talked to them a little bit about it. And in that report that they did, they gave us some suggestions on what we could do to fix it. Now, of course, everything we do is gonna cost money, it's gonna cost somebody's gotta pony up some money to do it. What I'm proposing that we do is, we talk to Mr. Chernesky, and I'm sorry, I forgot the other gentleman's name. Mr. Williams, and folks from, basically from Charing Cross up to, as far as back as, what's that street on the other side of Charing Cross? Up to the top of the hill. Kirkstone? Gentleman called me from that street, he's having the same flooding problems. He didn't come tonight, but he called me and asked me to come and talk to him about it. But there's a number of families that are affected by this to the point where, I mean, their houses are worthless. They're not worthless, but these people living in these houses that are flooded out. The carpets are gone, the sheetrocks are gone. If they replace it and get it fixed, the next big storm event, rain event we have, will go in there and wipe it out again. This gentleman, Mr. Williams, has talked to us about his pool and all the work he's done. And he's spent, looks like he spent a considerable amount of money to get his pool back in shape, only in hopes that it doesn't have another big rain event, and then he gets it all wiped out again. It's time for us to come up with a solution, and the way the solution is, I think the solution is that the present drainage plan has been in place for the last, 40, 50 years when they built this subdivision. It was adequate back then when they first built it, but now it's been outgrown. We have more water coming into that on certain occasions, not every time it rains, but when we have those heavy rain events, it's just being taxed to the point where it can't handle the amount of that rain coming in. So what I was going to propose is we put together, we first poll the houses that are involved in this, that are having flooding problems. Maybe they can contribute, I don't know, $1,000 per home to get a resolution done in the sense that we can, they'll contribute some money to get the engineers to put forth a plan and execute the plan to increase the volume or to divert the water or whatever we need to do to mitigate all the flooding events that they have down there. Now, at the same time, we as a town, I think we need to put in a certain fund, commit a matching amount of money so that we can have Dennis Engineering and the reason why I picked Dennis Engineering because they're the ones that produced the initial report, to come up with not only the reason why they're having these problems, but to come up with a solution on how we can fix this problem. And that may be entailing, we have to increase the piping size, we have to build some retention ponds over there or something. Because again, this doesn't happen every time it rains, only when we have those heavy rain events. And I think that we should, as a town, we should put together like I said, poll the houses that are involved in this and see if we can come up with a reasonable amount of revenue from there to participate in the resolution. And then we as a town take up the slack and contract with Dennis Engineering to come up with a solution and to put it forth. I don't want to put it on the county, that's the county's problem. I don't want to put it on, that's DOT's problem. No, this is Irmo's residents. These are our citizens. And we need to have something done to make these citizens' homes a lot more drier than this winter. So that's what I'd like to see happen, and y'all can chime in and tell me what y'all think about it.
I believe we need to put pressure on the county. It's the county responsibility.
Well, we've done that. We've done that for the last, 10, 15 years or so.
But we've got more than just this area of flooding in Irmo. We've got several other areas.
so we're gonna address everything.
And if we're gonna address everything, don't we need a
We need
referendum?
about a $5 million
Yeah.
budget plan for that, but, this is a major, expensive project that I don't know what they're going to do, so it's a county issue.
It's not a county issue anymore. We have to do something as a town to help these citizens out. These guys' houses are being destroyed every time we have these heavy rain events. Now, we can say, okay, this is DOT's problem, this is a county problem. And the county says, wait a minute, yeah, his house floods out, but the water goes away in a certain amount of time, which is what it's designed to do. But what happens when the water's rushing into, like this guy's picture shows, the water's rushing into his front yard. That water's not dissipating fast enough to handle it. That means something, there needs to be another piping situation, there needs to be a retention pond built somewhere. Something needs to happen. And I think we need to pony up and say, we're not gonna depend on the county to do it, we're gonna do it as members of the community alone in this particular area. Now, if there's other areas involved, I don't have a problem with us looking at other areas. They can do the same situation, you get those neighbors that are involved in those areas, they all get together and put some money into the fund and pony up some funds, and then we actually take the lead, say, okay, now you, sir, you're a homeowner, you said you pledged $1,000 or so to get this problem resolved. We as a town now will work on getting this problem resolved in your neighborhood.
One solution I heard to the problem was a drainage detention pond on the other side of Broad River Road, which is not even in the town of Irmo. And I heard that that would probably solve it. We can't even do that.
A
Because
retention pond on the other
on
side?
the other side of Broad River Road, it would need to be 30 feet deep, some enormous amount, and that would stop the water from coming in. We can't even do that. That's not even in the town of Irmo. But the other thing is, we don't know what we're doing here.
That's why you have the engineers.
Well, we don't
That's why
even
you
have the
engineers.
equipment, and I think we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And we probably are.
We probably are, and I think somebody ought to have to do it. I just don't think it's us, because we don't even know what we're doing.
That's why you have an engineer company that can tell us
I
exactly
think
what needs to be
we
done.
ought to put more pressure on Richland County. I think if we've got sewage in the yard, we need to call DHEC. There are things here that we don't even know how to deal with. That's awful, and that's a big problem.
Well, Mr.
And that's
Williams,
something that DHEC should handle.
And in reality, after watching it for 30 years, and I think you said it best, it's a simple problem. It's not really a matter of a drainage ditch on the other side of Broad River Road. I can tell you what it is. I've tracked that water. The pipes are simply too small. The ditch behind my house, and all the water ends up at my house. And by the way, I think many of y'all were living where I would live. Y'all would put forth more effort. You know, I would do the same thing if I was on the council, but really, it's a simple problem. It's not hundreds of thousands of dollars. I used to think that. It's a simple problem, and a gentleman made a suggestion years ago, and he was ignored, and he worked for the county. He said, all we need to do is put in a few bigger pipes, because what is simply happening before it gets to Broad River Road on the other side, what is happening is the pipes cannot handle it, and it's coming from three different directions, simply because the pipes can't handle it. And I really don't mind. I'm not here. I just spent over $10,000 cash. And I want y'all to see those pictures out my pocket. And I'm not asking for any compensation for that. But all I'm asking is for some effort. And I'm hearing again this evening the same thing. Everybody's saying somebody else has to do it, but there's been no effort.
Because we don't know how to do this. I mean,
Yeah.
That's why we have engineers. Mr. Conley.
Right.
We already paid the engineers.
And they gave us a suggestion of what to do, and we haven't executed what they told us to do.
Because I don't think it's us. I think it's Richland County.
See, that's what I'm saying. I'm tired of pointing it off on the county or DOT. This man lives in the town of Irmo. We report to him, and he's asking us to help him fix his flooding issues, where he's losing value on his.
Where do you want
Mr.
the money?
Trubisky,
Okay, where do you want the hundreds of thousands to come from?
Well, may I make a suggestion? Before there's an assumption made that it'd be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I can understand that assumption being made without any kind of assessment, that's just guessing. but physically I've been there. So you're sitting here, but I physically watch what the water is doing. I've physically watched it, and what happens is when the water goes into a drain, it backs up because the pipe is too small, so it runs to the next drain. That one pipe is so small, it runs to the next one. And what eventually happens, it gets to my house. It gets to my house, and then I become the drain. And what I could have done, but like the lady that sent the note about the toilet tissue, what I could have done, but I didn't want to be mean-spirited. I could have ran a brick wall up beside my house, and on either side, and just said, look, it's my neighbor's problem because I've got this brick wall. I know how to keep it from coming in my garage and in my yard. I know how to stop it, and in my car. But it would be mean-spirited. But I know what I could do. In fact, somebody told me, why don't you just put a wall up and let your neighbors worry about it? But it's mainly the pipes. Now,
Who owns those? Do you know?
who owns the pipes?
Are these drainage pipes for Richland County or city?
Now, that's a good question. The highway department came out a few weeks ago, and they told me, someone from the highway department, they said, look, we're responsible for the drainage all the way up to where it goes into the drain off the street. They then told me that they think that Richland County is supposed to catch the drain water that run between the houses because they say they cannot come on the property. So that's what the highway department told me, that they're responsible and that it does get to the drain, but once it goes into the pipes can't handle it. The county years ago, we've had 2 meetings about it. And in fact, I'm trying to remember whether Mr. Mayo had came to one that we had, but I don't think it'll cost as much as it may seem because it's really, in my opinion, it's a very limited area. Almost everybody in the neighborhood except for maybe about 4 or 5 houses, they're not affected. The whole area is not affected. It's only a few houses. And so I would just ask, I think if a little effort is made, it would fix a big problem. I really believe that. If a little effort is made. And I would just ask each of y'all as homeowners, put yourself in my position. Just put yourself, suppose it was you here standing before y'all. And I don't mind paying taxes. I pastor a church in Columbia. I understand what it is to take on responsibility. But just please remember that if you were in my position, all of y'all, I think a little more effort would have been made. Common sense would tell me a little bit more effort would have been made. And I'm just asking for help. And by the way, if y'all come up with something, Councilman, just like you said, I don't mind joining hands with the city of Irmo and putting money with it. I don't mind doing that. I really don't.
I don't think any of those people are affected by this with buying.
Right.
And they may not be able to afford anything.
Right.
The bottom line is, as a town, or as we as the elected officials of this town, I'm tired of pointing it off saying, well, it's the county's problem, let the county fix it, or it's DOT's problem. No, this is our citizens' problem. They're asking us to help them. You got a house that probably won't sell for very much. When somebody looks at it and says, man, I got this monsoon flooding happening there.
Right.
You know, good luck selling it.
Right.
And Mr. Trubisky, I don't know how this man is living in his house.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
This poor guy, it's washing away. You know?
Yeah, it is.
And if he fixes it, which he could do very well, he could very easily fix it, the next big storm event, it's all gone again. And I don't blame him for not doing it. But that's what we as a town can do. We have the ability to do it. And I'm not saying we have the ability to do it, finance it, but we have the ability to get the engineers involved, contract with them to look at increasing the volume of water that those pipes can handle.
And about 8 years ago, I met David, I'm not sure whether you were saying that or not. We had a meeting with everybody that was affected in that area. It was about 5 or 6 homes. It was not, it was not, okay, up the hill. But it's not all of Old Fry's Gate. But it seems like certain homes are it's just a natural flow there where there's certain homes are we're actually the drainage. Everybody looking away saying, you know, we're not worried, but I'm the drainage, as the water's flowing through the city of Irmo, my home and my property is actually draining the water for whatever part that the city of Irmo, would take responsibility for. So I'm just asking for help. I'm just asking for common sense help. I'm not coming here begging, but I don't have the money to do it by myself. But I'm just basically asking, if it was your home, just honestly ask yourself how much effort as a councilman would, you put forth. That's all I'm asking, for this fair consideration. But thank y'all, y'all so kind, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if you want, I had talked to Mr. Osbeck on Friday. He was Director of Public Works for the county, and he acknowledged that the pipes were theirs. They've got a plan already worked out. What I'm getting to here, he says, it says in here they require 48-inch pipes. But before they want to put the pipes in, which is not part of our intergovernmental agreement that we have between the town of Irmo and Richmond County, and now it's a money issue, which is why they're hesitant on doing it. Because if they put bigger pipes in, DOT has to put bigger pipes in Broad River Road, and they don't want to do it. So it's really a political hot potato if we want, and that's where, council could get involved. But if the county would pony up the money to put the pipes in, they'll do it if DOT will put bigger pipes in. I don't know how to persuade them. I know they
You're
talk to
saying
you.
DOT needs to put,
Well, DOT says they're not going to. Richmond County said they know exactly what they need. They've got a plan.
right here you're saying Richmond County says they can put 48-inch pipe
They
in.
need bigger pipes going down towards Broad River Road.
Under
and
Charlie Cross?
Under Charlie
Under
Cross.
Charlie Cross. And then DOT has to put them.
Bigger pipe under Broad River and down in that area.
What about under the interstate?
If you put the bigger pipes in under Charlie Cross, which is on our property, if you will.
Well,
and
Richmond
say-
County's road. not
Right.
Richmond County's road.
My point is this, let Richmond County do what they do, and then turn it over to DOT. If they don't wanna do it, let it flood down that
But
area.
we haven't solved the problem. We're gonna flood somebody else in Irmo.
No. If you got the 40-inch pipes going to, from what I understand, I'm just saying, going to that Broad River, and they don't do what they're supposed to do, then they're gonna have a problem, not us.
Well, it'll take the water down, but it's right at a wall. We had
It's
the
still gonna
same,
back up. It's still gonna back up.
we had the same situation in Coatesworth, many years ago. And, it's easy to say, well, we can solve it here. I'll just do something and protect mine. But, and Counselor, you correct me if I'm wrong. If I do something, or the town does something, and diverts water onto someone else's property, then we're liable for that. And if we turn water loose to go down range, and they can't handle it down there, we're responsible for the damage it does down there.
What I would suggest that you consider doing is this. And again, I appreciate you talking, but you are aware. What I would suggest you consider doing this is, I would basically ask Bob to set a meeting with our engineer, Dan Dennis, the county engineer, whoever this gentleman is who says he knows what to do.
Mr. Osbeck, he's the new director. He said
And the
we have to
DOT
come see you.
engineer. Now, if the DOT engineer says he won't come, I'll call John Hardy and I'll have him here. John Hardy should also be asked to come to that meeting, because that man's got more sense than a lot of people I know. John Hardy is your highway commissioner, and he will do the right thing. But we need somebody from the town, from an engineering standpoint. We need a county engineer, a DOT engineer, and we need to bring Mr. Charneski and his pictures, and he needs to be there.
And the swimming pool next to
And Mr. Williams needs to be there, and the other homeowners need to be there. Now, we need to know either this, if Bob, and I learned something tonight, apparently Bob is telling me the county acknowledges those pipes are their responsibility, and they know what needs to be done to fix it. Well, that's the first I've heard of that. That's good news.
But they don't have the money.
Well, we'll talk about that. If the county basically is there and they got a problem that's basically flooding out our homeowners, and they acknowledge it's their responsibility, and they won't fix it because it's not, they got the money. I know who can tell them they do have the money, they're gonna find it. Now, the other problem is, that you're exactly right, Harvey. If we basically have a problem, the county goes in and spends it, the problem will still exist because DOT won't spend theirs. You know, we know how to make that happen too. I mean, there are things known as public nuisance, and apparently we do have one of those in our town, and we can bring an action along with the homeowners to basically get injunctive release to force them to do it if they won't do it voluntarily. If we now know where the problem lies, which apparently is with the county and DOT, we ought to have, you know, as soon as possible, a meeting with Mr. Brown and myself and the homeowners, county engineer, DOT engineer, our engineer, meet right here and either get to the bottom of, we are going to do something or we aren't. If we aren't, then we have two choices: either try to fix it ourselves, which we probably don't even have legal authority to fix it if DOT pipes have got to be there. But by golly, we can join with the homeowners in an action that doesn't cost them any money to see if the court will force them to do it. This is a mess, and these people need to be fixed.
Right. And, you know, I did want Mr. Williams and Mr. Charnetsky to know, the town has paid the Dennis Corporation to come in and give us those opinions that we carry to the county.
And Harvey, we got some work done. I mean, the work we did at right in front of David's house with DOT, we got DOT to do some work, and DOT committed to me that they would.
I have your letter.
Yes, sir. DOT committed to me that they would do what they had to do in order to fix that part of the problem that was theirs. And I believe they will do that, and if they won't do it, John Hardy will make them do it. And if it's the county, I mean, with all due respect, not putting Mr. Malinowski, I don't think you look for a whole lot of help there, but, you know, I know we can do, if the county won't do it, saying they ain't got the money to do it, then there are people who can tell them they have to do it. It might involve an action in court. If it does, it just does. You know, you can't just sit back there and continue letting these people drown. We now know whose responsibility it is, then let's get them in here and help them not live long. And if they refuse to do it, then we've got options that are available to you to take to help these people.
No.
But I don't think we even have a legal authority to go out. I mean, we can't go out and put a pipe under a road. It's not our road.
Right.
And the pipes do, the county doesn't have accepted responsibility for the drainage. If this gentleman is correct, I'm sure he is. This is the first I've ever heard that we actually do know how to fix it. You know, I'm no engineer, I'm just a lawyer. But I've been down and looked at it. I've come up with lots of thoughts in my head that this might work, but they're all expensive. But gracious me, if it's fixable, and we know who's supposed to fix it, then let's make them fix it. But let's give them a chance to talk first, and they need to tell us yes or no. And if Bob will set up such a meeting, I will come.
Yeah, again, it's just, understanding, we were trying to force them to fix it under our intergovernmental agreement, and that only takes care of maintenance, and they're saying this is not a maintenance problem, this is an improvement problem. They don't have the money to improve because it's not under our agreement, so they'd have to come out of another, it's, like I said, it's money driven.
Well, they can always come back and tell us that
I know.
they're gonna rescind the intergovernmental service agreement too. Say goodbye, it's yours. But I mean, my goodness, if they're taking the money out of that agreement and they're not doing the work, then that cuts both ways too. If we're gonna have to pay to fix this stuff,
I
then.
think they, and I can't remember, but I remember this story right here from a couple of years ago, where they told us, because, and I can't remember.
That was when David Hoops was here.
Yeah, and I think, Milton Pope was at the county at that time. Because he told me they have intergovernmental agreements with, like, city attorney or somebody, I can't know who, where maybe it's forest acres, or could be like, numbers.
And they pay a percentage in the county.
Where they do
Right.
maintenance and improvements,
Right.
but they also, I guess, probably hire tax or keep an eye on it. But then when we try to talk to them about that, they're like, no, we're not doing that, y'all, we're not doing that, we're not doing that. So,
Well, can we organize a meeting?
Sure.
Okay, I think that.
Can I just say three things? Three things. One, this problem's been going on for a long time. Long time. He's been in the house for 30 years. I've been dealing it for 8, and my house has been flipped 5 times. And I know why it was flipped 5 times. We all know why it was flipped 5 times. There's an emergency fund from Richland County that they mentioned to me this last storm. But yet nobody will put the heat on them to use that fund. The lady said that there's a new flood emergency fund that you may qualify for, but yet nobody, and then that email came out right after that.
That's county or FEMA money that you're talking about? Is that county or FEMA?
I called Richland County. Who I was supposed to call and contact? It was Stacy.
Stacy called.
When I called Stacy and emailed Stacy the pictures, that lady at the front who answers the phone says, "You may." Now, years back they didn't have that fund, but it's available now. Then I get that email from Stacy. And the thing about it is why we have to move quick is because they change people over there like crazy. The people that I started working with 8 years ago, complaining, I've got all their business cards stapled to a folder, I got paper trail of everything, none of them work there anymore. Some of them do, maybe 2 out of all of them. And then, we have to work. We've been living like this for a long time.
Well, I came to your house, Mr. Kaminsky. I don't want you to live like that anymore. I think the council is going to be united on this. We're going to move forward. We're going to have this meeting set up. And if you would spread the word to your neighbors, all of your neighbors that are affected in the immediate area, and I'll tell this other person that came to complain and throw up the room for me. We all get together and we don't let the ball drop. I think we can get some resolution in it, but I'm tired of us pointing it off, so, well, DOT needs to fix it or the county needs to fix it, and then we just sit back and nobody does anything. I want to keep the pressure on whoever until we keep the heat on, right, until we get a movement so that we can say, okay, it is our pipes, it is our problem, we know what we need to do to fix it. Well, let's do it.
Right.
There's no reason why we shouldn't do it. And if money is the issue, like Jake said, if money is the issue, we can figure out the money problem.
Thanks, man.
thank you. Any other discussion?
So then you're gonna set that meeting up then, is that right?
I'll try to get it next 2 weeks.
We already decided.
And you let I don't know how, do you have a list, David? Can you coordinate a list, Mr. Williams and David? Can y'all coordinate a list of your of the neighbors that are affected by this flooding issue that might be interested in coming to such a meeting so we can know that, who all is involved in this, and I'll pass it on to the people that talk.
Next item is item G, discussion on holding a town hall meeting on police procedures during a traffic stop. And Ms. Walker, you put that on the agenda, I'll let you lead off there.
Yeah, I was, and Chief, this is really, I know we do a great job of policing in the town of Irmo, and one of the things that I want to make sure that we are communicating to the citizens is what happens when you get a blue light behind you and you get pulled over. Most folks assume that, well, I'm being stopped by cops because I just got speeding, or I got a tail light out or something like that, you know, is it the right of a police officer to make you get out your car? Is that something that that y'all can do automatically, or is that something that is voluntary, or does the police have a right to search your vehicle, you know, when they pull you over for your tail light out or something like that? Or you got all these marijuana charges, like, there's people with these getting pinched with, you know, marijuana in their car and paraphernalia. Are they finding this in their car? Are they finding this on their persons? I mean, how are they finding this stuff? Are you searching people's cars and getting it? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm just saying, I'd like to have that kind of a town hall meeting so that we can make sure the citizens know exactly where they come, what happens, what they're allowed to do, or what's allowed, so that we don't have a situation that gets escalated out of hand. Like somebody gets pulled over for a tag light out and then they end up shooting them because they're running away from them or something. I don't know. I don't want to get like Charleston or Ferguson, Missouri. But I think it's being proactive and having such a meeting will be the thing to do. Now, other council members may have a different opinion on it, but again, Irmo is not an island in itself. We have a lot of folks in this town that come in here, that are new to the area. They may not know the particular procedures. They may be coming from New York City, where it's allowed to do something different than this. Now, I don't know. But I think if we have a frank discussion and let people know this is where we are, I think it'd be a good proactive movement.
Before you answer, Chief, is it not in state law about pulling over a vehicle and the procedure you follow?
That's correct.
Are we breaking it?
No, we're not.
When we start interfering with police procedures, I think we're way out of our bailiwick. I don't have a...
I'm not saying interfere with these procedures.
No, you're asking him questions that are a matter of law, and it's his business and really not ours unless there's a complaint. I have not received a complaint since we shot the dog. I haven't heard of that. I haven't. And I don't think you ought to interfere with the police. If you want to bring some high school kids to the police station and let them instruct them on what to do when you're pulled over, first of all, you get off the road, you stop the car, you put your hands on your steering wheel and say, what did I do? That's it.
Did you get out the car?
Now, if they ask you to, and they may have a reason.
No. Do you get out the car?
No, you put your hands on the steering wheel, you roll down the window and say, what is it, officer?
So if the police officer asks you to get out the car, you have to get out the car?
I would.
Answer the question. If the police ask you to get out the car,
I would get
do
out.
you have to get out the car?
The police have never asked me to do anything I didn't do. And I've been stopped.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what you do.
If you get pulled over, now here's a scenario. You get pulled over for speeding, okay? You get pulled over for speeding, and the cop says, I'm pulling you over because you were exceeding the speed limit, okay? And then he says, I think you have some marijuana in your car.
If it was
Now,
visible.
wait a minute, now let me finish.
If it's visible.
No, he smells,
he
he
can say
thinks he
that.
smells marijuana.
If it's
It
in
could
the
be-
glove compartment or in the trunk, he's got to have a search warrant. Everybody knows that.
No. He can assume that you might have some drugs in there. And then he says, okay, well, I want to call the police dog or the drug sniffing dog out.
Okay.
So now you're sitting there waiting for the drug dog to come out. The drug dog comes out, right?
Sorry.
Now you're still in your car, right?
That's fine.
All right, and then the drug dog finds what? Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay? So now, he goes back and says, I'm gonna write you a ticket for speeding. Is that allowed?
Yeah.
No, it isn't, because you stopped the action that you started doing. The police pulled you over for speeding, and then he went into another action, which was the drug, searching your car for drugs. He can't go back and now say, well, I'm gonna charge you for speeding, because he didn't conclude that investigation.
Are you a lawyer?
I'm telling you, that's the law.
Okay.
You just asked me.
No, I'm not asking. I'm
Okay.
telling you, this is not our
Jake's
area of competence. It is
Well, I
not.
think that if we have that frank discussion, we won't have a situation where.
Well, you can have it with the chief.
Well, like I said, I think the town should have it, because, again, you don't want a situation where it gets out of hand, and we have a Ferguson, or we have a Charleston situation where.
Do you really think we're like person?
hey, this guy's got pulled over for having a tag light up, you know, and then all of a sudden, I see here he's got paraphernalia, drug paraphernalia, marijuana found. I don't see the connection with the two, but that's what happened.
It may be.
Pull over because the tag light up, and then you get pinched for having marijuana, some possession of marijuana.
Okay, I don't think that happens at Irmo. And
I don't know if it does or not, but I'm
I
saying,
think
to be
everybody
more
knows
proactive
they're
about it.
supposed to
To be
cooperate
open
with the
communication, to have an open line of communication with our law enforcement, that would solve a lot of issues that may come
Our
up in
former
the future.
chief went to two of these town hall meetings.
Yeah, and guess what? You don't think those town hall meetings are helpful in the
No.
city?
He said he was attacked.
He was attacked.
Yeah, but he probably should have dialed 911.
In the SAPCON driver's license manual, this is what it says. On police and traffic stops, if you are pulled over by a police officer, pull over to the right side of the roadway and stop your vehicle as far away from traffic as possible to ensure safety for both you and the police officer. Okay? Turn off the engine, radio, CD player, or any other device which may get in the way of communication with the officer. Okay, is that understood? If it's nighttime, turn on your hazard flashers and interior lights to help the officer see. Roll down your window to communicate with the officer. It is important that you and your passengers remain calm and keep your safety belt fastened. Keep your hands on the steering wheel and limit movements. If the officer asks for your driver's license, proof of insurance, and or vehicle registration, tell the officer where it is located and slowly reach for them. Remain in the vehicle at all times unless requested by the officer to get out. Always answer questions clearly and fully. Never run from the police as it is dangerous. Many fatal crashes occur from police chases. The consequences for running from the police are more severe than the initial traffic violation. Period. What else is there to discuss?
What else is there to say?
Yes. If you can't, it's plain and simple. Obey the police officer. Yes.
May I add that I've been doing the internal affairs complaints for the last 10 years. If you look at the numbers just for this month, 334 traffic stops. We haven't reached the 1% threshold this year so far, and we have never met it in the last 10 years.
And we're a nationally certified department, state certified department, which is one of the few in the county from what I understand. And we've got to go through rigorous recertification. I mean, this department is compared to some of the others in the counties. Of course, I know I'm prejudiced because I basically got started, but the reputation that we have as far as the quality of policing that's done here is probably the best in which election we do.
Plus, most of them live here. I mean, they not only police the area, they live very close by or in town.
I don't think it's a reputation of policing in question. I think it's a matter of information going out to the community so that folks, especially the new folks that move in town, is very aware of our policing procedures and comfortable with it. I don't think it's a matter of
Maybe we
doing
should
something wrong.
provide that to every citizen of a copy of that.
Copy of the driver's license.
Well, they've all had to do it to get their driver's license. I think some of the young folks get some bad information from the street.
Yeah.
It always intrigues me when an officer says, stop, you don't stop. What part of that did you not understand? If you think the officer's doing something wrong, obey the officer. Tomorrow, you can deal with that. But if you run or try to fight or be disrespectful, you're going to have to deal with it right then. And that may not be in your best interest. But I think some of the young folks get some bad information and watching TV, they see some things where they think they have rights that they don't have, or they construe those rights to be something different than what they really are.
So then, why don't you make sure we clear the air so that we know that those rights are.
You know, I don't have any problem with that, but I just don't know the numbers that you're going to reach. I don't think you're going to reach the people that you need to reach.
But if we don't do it, we don't know. We don't have an opportunity to do it. You might be surprised, you might not be surprised. I don't know. I mean, all I know is that I don't want us to be in a position where somebody with a cell phone camera records an officer doing something and it gets all, blown out of proportion because we were under assumption of one thing and the citizens under the assumption of something else.
I think we
Like
ought to
Angela
leave it up
Ferguson
to the
said.
chief. I think it's his business and not ours.
Well, I agree with you, it is his business, but as a councilman in Irmo, I think it's my business to make sure that the information is going to the public and our constituents in a way that they understand where we're coming from. Now, again, y'all don't have to do it, but I'm saying, and you may not, but that's okay. I'm just having a conversation. That's fine.
First of all, where have you heard that this type of forum works? Who has done something similar to this? Is it something that you came up on your own, or the municipalities had a?
Yeah, the city of Columbia's done it, Richland County's done it, even down in Charleston they've done it.
So I don't know if this will turn into a police bashing. Will it be that?
It's not a police bashing. I'm not looking at bashing the police. I'm looking at giving information to the community. So we'll be to you in a minute, sir. I'll get to you in a minute. It's not a matter of bashing the cops. It's just a matter of getting the information to the public that this is what happens in Irmo, and this is what we expect. So those misconceptions, if I was wrong, Chief, in saying that, somebody pulls you over for speeding, and they just think that you got drugs, so they pull the drug dogs out. If I was wrong on that, let's clear it up. Make sure, tell me I'm wrong, and they can do that. They can go from one case to another. They don't have to go back to the other one.
You were still speaking.
Yeah, but that's not what he was pulling me over that, but then he switched to start investigating a drug.
Well, don't have any drugs and don't speak.
Any more discussion? Oh,
No, I just wanted,
wait for the other thing?
Yeah.
All right, any more discussion on that? Then the next item would be presentation by citizens, or anyone can address council on anything, regardless if it's on the agenda or not.
There you go.
Okay, all we ask you to give us your name and address for the record,
ahead.
and
Yeah, I was waiting.
Just get to the
okay,
right place.
it's really not how the procedure works. I just moved here from New York City, and I just wanted to stress about police community, policing in New York City.
Stop. Give us your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, my name is David Johnson,
and your address.
204 Woodspur Road,
204
Woodspur, WOODSPUR. And I just wanted to address the police situation about the traffic stops. It's nothing major, but where I come from New York City, and every police precinct in New York City have a community meeting with their district. And I just want to know, do they have that type of policy here? Whereas the police have community meetings with the people in their district. That's what I want to know first of all. Do you have any?
That's what I'm trying to do.
That's what you're trying to establish?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did that years ago, but the attendance was minimal, so they discontinued that years ago. Don't you remember?
That you have monthly meetings with, what, I guess because you're Irmo Police with the whole town?
We did fire escape with different communities in town. That was before I became chief, but we tried a fire escape park, and I think Councilman Walker, did you attend those?
I did.
But the attendance, they just, and I don't know why they quit happening, but.
Attendance.
The attendance was low.
Attendance was low.
Oh, not even
thing, like, I'm just suggesting that maybe like now with the climate of police matters now would be a good time to bring that back up, to keep the community informed about police procedures, standard operating procedures, and, you know, what's expected of the citizens. I'm just making a suggestion. That it might be time to bring back those town hall type meetings between the police department and the citizens.
Do you have a South Carolina driver's license now?
Yes.
Okay, that's what he read from, is the.
No, I understand. All I was addressing is that I just wanted to know if this town of Irmo have those meetings where the police, where the chief of police would come in into have a town hall meeting like this with the citizens of their district and just basically talk about police policies and procedures and, you know, what they expect. I understand the law very well. I came from New York City. I was 24 years as a police officer in New York City.
But I watch Blue Bloods.
I am blue. I was blue. But that's all. I just wanted to just to make that suggestion. I don't know if they do that type of community policing here.
Well,
And
it might be the difference in crime. The crime rate, you know, I would assume.
Well, I think that is a major prevention of crime, and to have that interaction between the community and the police. It's a major prevention of crime to know your local policeman. That's what I believe. And I believe that having these monthly town meetings with the chief of police or representative of the police department, have monthly town hall meetings with citizens, like he said, of certain like area like Friars Gate or certain community in their, you know, community rooms, could be helpful. Could be helpful.
I know we've had those type meetings.
Yeah.
When the homeowners association would make those requests and set up crime watch areas, and the police department's gone out and worked with them in doing that. But again, the attendance was just
It's too low.
several of the last crime watch that I knew that we set up, it became almost a knockdown drag out as to where you were gonna put the sign. Nobody wanted the sign that said crime watch area anywhere close to their property. You know, so I don't know that it ever got put up.
If I wants to be the watch commander, Catherine's here, so.
So if you have a sign, a crime watch, if you have a crime watch sign in your neighborhood, anybody who's looking to buy a house, they say, oh, this is a crime watch neighborhood, they'll think that the neighborhood is not good.
Yeah.
That's why nobody wants a crime watch sign in their neighborhood. You don't see that in the ascot. You know, so anyway, that's all I wanted to say. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else?
George Glassmar, 110 Beck Road. I first want to address the flood issue. I would echo Mr. Moore's advice. I think it was excellent, and I would echo his concern that if you're going to, that I'm not sure that the town has the authority to go in and replace those pipes that are under Richland County's jurisdiction, at least without their consent. Furthermore, it's my understanding that even if that was done, the end problem exists on the other side of Broad River Road, so that even if you made the pipes bigger, as this gentleman suggested, I don't know that that's going to mitigate his problem much, because you still got the water backing up over there. Another concern I had is a couple of these folks had indicated there was a problem with sewage coming up. Now, I live in Old Friars Gate, but and where I live, I'm on City of Columbia water and City of Columbia sewer service, but it's my understanding that not every Old Friars Gate resident is on City of Columbia sewer service.
Correct.
Yeah, we had this discussion years ago about your
Mother.
mother.
Yeah. The dividing line.
Yeah, well, okay, but if they're on City of Columbia sewer service, it seems to me that they could address the sewer backup problem to the City of Columbia, and my experience with them is they've always been very responsive about sewer problems. So that may be someplace they need to look to if they haven't already, that might at least resolve part of their problem. All that being said, if it rains enough, everybody in this town is going to have a flooding problem. So my question then becomes, where do you draw the line as to whose problem is serious and whose isn't, and when does it become the town's problem? And I also would be interested to know if these folks have actually, I applaud them for appearing before this council, but I wonder if they've taken the effort to appear before Richland County Council meetings and be as vocal and dynamic and present the evidence to them that they have here, because I think it's pretty clear that at least some of the problem lies within the realm of Richland County, and at least they should, I think, exhaust those efforts similar to what they've done here with Richland County. But that's not to say that in the meantime I don't applaud the idea that Mr. Moore has for the meeting. As to Mr. Walker's suggestion that the chief conduct meetings to help people understand the laws of traffic stops, I probably know more about that law than anybody in this room, if not the town and if not the state, because I spent the bulk of my career teaching search and seizure to law enforcement officers in this state. In fact, I taught the chief, and at one point I couldn't go anywhere in the state that every officer didn't know me from Hardyville to Spartanburg. So, and I would tell you, Mr. Walker, that's not something that you learn in 1 meeting or 10 meetings, and it's not something that everybody has the mental ability to grasp, and it's very dynamic. New cases come out of the Supreme Court, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, and the South Carolina appellate courts all the time. So it's not something that if you know it now, you know it tomorrow. And I think you would cause more confusion than you would provide education by doing that. And I would echo what Mr. Youngner says. This is not complicated. If you see a blue light, you pull over as soon as practicable, stop, do what the officer instructs you to do, and as Mr. Hoot said, if there's a problem, you can make that a complaint with internal affairs for the respective law enforcement agency the next day. If you look at a lot of these problems that are making national coverage, a lot of those traffic stops that end up with bad results are at least exacerbated by the motorist simply not doing what the officer told him to do, or committing another offense during the course of the traffic stop. It's not rocket science. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Alan Taylor, 464 Woodhouse Loop, Irmo. I want to give some background to my earlier speaking up here. I grew up in Irmo. I grew up, about 2 miles down the road, and went to Nursery Road Elementary School, graduated from Irmo High School. I was number 4 in my class. Went to Wofford College. After college, a lot of people move off. And what did I do? I came back home and I settled, because this is a good town, and I want to live in this town. As you can see, I'm raising a family in this town, and I'm trying to do business in this town as well. I'm frustrated. I'm really frustrated. I listened to the proposal, or the update on the Ochre Strut status, and I couldn't help but shake my head, because I feel like there's a consensus. I feel like there's a consensus that we've done something wrong, and even with allegations out there that we've done something wrong, and I can simply say that we haven't done anything wrong. Last year, I accepted tickets at the Ochre Strut in exchange for beer, wine, and soft drinks. Those tickets were taken by me on a hand truck, because we had so many of them. They were taken, they were weighed, not by myself, and I was told by someone else how many tickets I had. At which point, I was given a piece of paper, told me that I was going to receive a certain amount of money. And I'd like to go on record that that amount of money was in the amount of 75% of the total tickets that were in the container. 75%, which means the town received 25% of my revenue, which first off I think is strange. If the Ochre Strut is struggling financially to actually use a vendor this year that is paying back 20%, that's actually less revenue. But I never touched the tickets. They were handed over, and that was it. I picked up the phone on August 4th, and I called the town of Irmo because I hadn't heard anything. But that was similar to last year's story, because as of the beginning of August last year, I still also had not heard anything. And I called and asked a very innocent question. I was calling to see if we were still on for the Ochre Strut. And After a couple of transfers of phone call, I was actually informed that yes, you are the vendor for the Okra Strut. They collected all of my personal information. They collected my federal tax ID number. They collected my email address and all my contact information. We talked about the bands that were going to be participating at the Okra Strut. The young lady even gave me the name of the band that she wanted to see there, but she didn't think could come as a result of money. At the end of the conversation with that young lady, and I honestly cannot remember her name, I was transferred to Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown informed me that, well, his first question was, did she take care of you? Did she get everything you needed? And honestly, I almost said yes and hung up the phone. But I repeated myself and I told him, you know, I just hadn't heard anything, so I wanted to just call and confirm, you know, that we were still on. And we talked for a couple of minutes before I was informed that we were in fact not the Okra Strut beverage vendor, and that it was because we were grossly overpaid. And I would like to go on the record as stating that that was the first time that anyone had told me that they thought that we were grossly overpaid. I was contacted in March, on March 15th, by Captain Howard Hughes of the Richland County Sheriff's Department. He is in charge of the Financial Crimes Division. And he wanted to meet with me. And we met. We talked for about half an hour. He requested copies of all of my records for sales, revenue, everything. I gave it to him. As a person who has done nothing wrong, I had nothing to hide. I was told how many tickets I had by the town of Irmo, and I was given a check by the town of Irmo. I never demanded money in a certain amount. That was it. That's all that happened. And then I find out 10 months later that we lose our biggest customer of the year, town of Irmo. And it's frustrating because we're trying to do business in a town, and we did good business last year. We did very good business last year. And it was hard to hear. I don't know where to go from here. I feel like I've been lied to. I feel like there's some false allegations out there. And this is frustrating. And is this what you want town businesses to feel? Do you want them to feel like by doing business with the Okra Strut, you're going to come under investigation and lose the ability to do business? That's not what I want. I'm not coming here to raise a stink. I actually requested a meeting by email and by phone, neither of which were granted. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I've got a crying baby in the back, and I apologize for that.
Well, just to answer your question, your partner or somebody did call me, and I talked to him at length, and I also emailed all the information to him. I wasn't going to repeat myself.
I understand.
Okay.
But a simple reply of no would have been a whole lot better than me coming down here and sitting here for 2.5 hours. And this is really, really, really difficult. And to clarify that, my business partner actually did come down to the town office, and he sat in the office for almost 3 hours and requested a meeting when Mr. Brown got a chance. And he was actually informed that Mr. Brown was not going to come out and meet with him. And the secretary actually played as messenger back and forth. I don't think that's a very professional way of doing business.
I told him I had nothing to say. He decided he wanted to sit there all afternoon. That was his choice.
I understand. I understand.
I told you we had an ongoing investigation, and I hope it sunk in because I wasn't involved with the Okra Strut last year. I don't know what precipitated it.
Correct.
All I know is what
Howard
Hughes told me. Well, all I know is what the investigator Hughes told me. He said there were allegations against Ed's bartending. You guys were overpaid. He wouldn't tell me how much. He said there was an ongoing investigation. That was the end of my story because I was put in charge this year, and I said, well, I'm not going to hire you because there's a cloud hanging over you.
Correct. And you know what you also told me? You told me that vendors who were under that investigation would not be allowed back. And that's a bold-faced lie. Because it was announced earlier that we're the only one. You know, that's really hard to hear, that you feel like you can't even trust the people that work at the town. And that's really frustrating.
There were 3 other vendors, and they were paid about $200 to $300 over. And they're still investigating that too. You were paid thousands of dollars over, so there's
Again,
a big cloud.
the first time that was ever brought to my attention was August 4th over a telephone call. The same telephone call where you told me that a beverage vendor had not been selected, and less than an hour later you sent me an email stating that there was a beverage vendor selected.
I never told you, it was Catherine that told you, and I don't throw her under the bus, but she just didn't have the same information I had. I apologize for that, but that wasn't me telling you.
Well, you know, I've gone on record. I don't think it's fair to come out and say that someone was grossly overpaid without even having a report in your hands. Because to be honest, I never counted the tickets. As a town, it seems like something should be put in place to know how much money came in before you pay money out. And to be honest, I never demanded a check. I sat around and waited. And when I got the phone call that Tuesday or Wednesday after, I came down and picked up my check and went to the bank. And that was it. Had someone called me in and said, you know, we think we overpaid you, I would gladly come sit down here and count every single one of those tickets. But I wasn't even given that opportunity. And I think it's a travesty to see that happen, and to have someone who lives here in the community lose business to somebody who doesn't live in the community. And that's really frustrating.
It's not going to make you feel any better, but I'll go on record also. If you get cleared, I'll invite you back next year. But I still haven't got a report. And I can tell you right now that the way the system was ran last year before they hired me, it was all screwed up. I'll say that. And that's why we're making a lot of changes.
All right.
Not being done the same way.
I understand.
Because of all the problems.
I understand. It feels like Ed's bartending has become the scapegoat of the Okra Strut. And I feel like it's being pointed towards me. And yes, I realize I was a large vendor. You know, I actually showed up with a 60-quart container full of tickets. It was so heavy that I had to roll it down on a hand truck. Every other vendor showed up with a box the size of a shoebox, and they were half full. Mine was so full I couldn't put a lid on it. And yeah, I believe that if I was overpaid by several $1,000s, if anybody was going to be overpaid by thousands of dollars, it was going to be me, because I had the tickets that if we were off a certain percentage, hey, guess what? That's going to happen. And I have no idea of knowing. You know, I know how many cases of beer I sold. I know how many kegs of beer I sold. I know how many bottles of wine I sold. All that was furnished to Richland County. I think it's a real shame that this wasn't addressed until August. You know, I mean, it's been a long time.
Well, it still hasn't been addressed to us yet.
And that's
because the mayor hasn't released the preliminary report, and the final report hasn't been released by the Richland County.
I mean, I wish I had something clear. I
has a preliminary report been furnished to the town?
Yes, well, to the mayor.
Okay.
And he's refusing to let anybody see it, which would clear you up, basically.
Well, okay.
So there you go.
I doubt that's very true. I don't know what it would clear up and what it wouldn't.
I don't know. I haven't seen anything, but apparently everybody else has seen it.
Is that not public record?
I don't know. It depends on who you're asking. I don't know. You asking him or you asking me?
I'm asking you.
Okay. No, it's not public record. It's an ongoing investigation, and it's not.
The preliminary report's not public record?
Are you asking me or are you asking him?
How was that preliminary report submitted to you?
I had a letter. I think it was maybe an email. I'm part of it. I think it was
Okay.
back from the letter.
That's all I need to know. I can get a copy of it. Thank you. That's all I
I
have.
haven't seen it. Just so you know.
That's all I have. Thank you.
If it was an email, we can get a copy of that.
We'll get a copy of it. We'll get a copy. I don't care.
You said it was an email. I didn't know it was an email.
I think it was a letter. But it hadn't done the final, and I think what he said was the final was still sitting
What
on
the preliminary said? The preliminary.
The final was still sitting on the police, or the sheriff.
The preliminary report would reach this cloud, man.
How are you, sir?
I'm Lewis Wood at 144 Copper Ridge Road. I was the gentleman who sat in Bob Brown's office all day on a Friday, just waiting for him to walk outside and explain what was going on. He wouldn't do that. He just kept explaining to his secretary. He had nothing to tell me, so that's why we're right here tonight. But just to clarify a few things to Alan, are you saying that the vendors who were only overpaid by a few $100s will be back?
I've got two of them that are coming back.
And because we had so many tickets that those few $100s kept adding up, we're not allowed back, but they are?
It was just based on the amount of money and in a big cloud, and, you know, council told me to go take charge. I had to find another bartender because I was concerned.
Oh, the council told you to take charge and do what?
Take charge of the damn orchestra.
They told you to go find another vendor?
No, you told me to take charge.
We told you to find another vendor for the
No,
revenues?
Barry, think about what you want, but that's fine.
No, I'm asking you a question.
I decided not to hire a vendor that was almost $7,000 overpaid.
But that's, how do we know that? How do we
It's your
know
mistake.
$7,000? You just told me that the final report hasn't been done.
That's right.
So how do you know he's been overpaid by $7,000?
Because Captain Hughes told me when he started the investigation, well, that was the only word I got.
If we're going by what Captain Hughes said, he told us we did nothing wrong. You guys
That's
were
right,
wrong.
that's what he told me a month ago. That's not what he told me 6 months ago.
That's what he told us 2 weeks ago.
Well, again, 6 months ago is when the only last time I talked to him. I
You
talked
sent
to
us
him
an
one
email
time.
that same morning saying nobody had been picked. When we got back in touch with you, somebody had been picked. It sounds to me like you once you found out that we were hunting and trying to figure out what was going on, you went out and got a bartender to make sure we weren't going to be here. And we did nothing wrong.
So it was an ongoing investigation. I was not going to select you while I was the guy having to pick somebody.
But you did pick the other vendors that were overpaid. You want to make some sense of that?
Nope.
You answered anybody?
Yep.
Who's that?
Us?
And do you schedule meetings or anything with people? Is that part of your job?
I'm sorry?
Do you schedule meetings with people in the community? Is that part of your job?
No.
What is your job?
That's my job, what the council tells me to.
Excuse me?
He's the administrative authority for the town.
So he has no obligation to the community.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
he
he runs
does.
the town. He runs the
But he
day-to-day
runs the town.
operation.
Gotcha. He just doesn't do a very good job.
One question, am I still to meet with Mr. Brown?
If you would like to, if you would like to.
It's kind of what I'm hearing, is that she's some of this kind of, that is good or bad?
Well, that was the mayor's suggestion. Council told me we weren't doing nothing.
We're not
Well-
ever meeting, you and I?
I heard Kathy say something about maybe cutting them down or digging them up or doing whatever, but that would
That's
be,
on my property.
yeah, I mean, that would be something you'd have to discuss and say,
Am I to see
here's
here?
whatever.
Am I gonna sit out there for 3 hours?
I'm sorry.
No.
Oh,
I'm saying, am I gonna be able to call and get a meeting time that I'll come down? Am I supposed to do that?
well, whether you're supposed to, I can't say, but if you would like to, I think.
Well, if you made a suggestion, that's something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be,
I don't know what to do. I'm really.
You made a suggestion, you write a letter, you see what that got you.
No.
Okay.
What should I do, Mrs. Brown? Brown to Brown. What should I do? Should I schedule an appointment with you, sir?
Well, you just stand here when this meeting's over and we'll make a schedule.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
anyone else who would like to address council? Seeing none, executive session or anything needed?
Not that I know of.
Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, use social hand. We are adjourned.